and it is literally one shot reload, one shot reload. So if you pull that out, you're looking at alerting everyone in the area. And
what's up? Throw them hands, let it go. And it was frustrating me at first, right? So what I end up realizing was like, I get us in the E, do it like, say if I parried the punch, throw the opposite hand like boxing.
Eating food, I'm thinking the food is gonna go to my health. No, I need bandages to fix that part.
Right.
But food goes to my stamina. So I got a bunch of food in my pocket, and I'm going to eat my food, but it's for my stamina.
But it's two different types. You got the lemons and all that. That's for the stamina. Then you got your donuts and you got your bread and you got that for the
history behind it. Like, it wasn't like some person that sit there and said, "What are you buying?" and then gave you a quest or anything like that. It was just like, we're gonna drop a key right here in the middle of this. We ain't gonna tell you what it's for. We ain't gonna tell you where it goes. We're gonna tell you the name of it, which is how you're gonna find where it goes. But that's all we giving you.
Welcome to the Iron Lords podcast.
All right, and we are not live here to talk Indiana Jones, The Great Circle. Shout out to Xbox, shout out to Machine Games providing us this code. We're gonna have a review of sorts and Bethesda, exactly. Shout out, thank you for that. And we have a review of sorts with our good friends in the Lords and a certain Randall Thor from the Xbox too. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. I guess I'm an honorary lord today.
Yes.
Or am I always an honorary lord? I forget.
You are honorary lord in the realm of
right.
the circle. You're in the great circle right now.
Yes. Oh, I like that.
You're essentially like the Duke.
Bill, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right. Spent the last 4 days playing Indiana Jones at great length. I think I was playing it like almost 8 hours a day for the last 4 days. So
so it's just not an 8-hour game, right?
No, it's not. It was a lot longer than I expected, but we'll get into that.
Well, we'll get into that. No doubt. Of course, we got the usual subjects. Lord Attic, how we doing, sir?
Doing good. I'm tired.
Yes.
I feel like I haven't slept in a week. Today was the first day I got like 3 hours of sleep. Like, it's like I said, this game's a lot longer than I thought, man.
A lot going on.
But I felt like I was so close to the finish line. I was like, I owe it to at least finish it.
No doubt. I respect that. And of course, the South Shaddam is the messiah of adventure games. How we doing, sir? Soph, how we doing? Good to see you.
I think we're going to be repeating tired a lot. Tired. All of us. All of us are tired. I'm unfortunately not tired from playing Indiana Jones. I wish I were exhausted from playing Indiana Jones, but no, just working. But yeah, glad to be here. Glad to be able to make it for this.
No doubt. And of course, the king of all platforms, specifically this format. How we doing, King David?
Oh, my God. Been very much appreciative for the copy of the game, and this is one of my most anticipated games of the year so far. And I'm upset that I didn't get a chance to blaze like the rest of you guys. I would have loved to have gotten to the end game, but I'm where I'm at, and we're going to get into that. But I am extremely tired. But yeah, that's not from the game. But I can't wait to get back into it because it got to a point where I'm just like really revving up at it.
No doubt. And of course, like Carcadino here, just talking that Indiana Jones and our experience. So I'm going to hand it off to Attic, man. We got to attack this thing. Lot to discuss, lot to unpack. Set us off, man.
So I feel the best thing that we could start this with is the story, being transparent. We do have embargo stuff that we can't talk about, certain story stuff, but we weren't going to talk about it anyway because we want you guys to experience that yourself. But I do think, the overall story, not the finish line, but like when you guys were playing the story, we'll say up to like the first like 5-6 hours, because the biggest thing that we probably should get out of this, like, how long have you played? Solve.
Go to the guy that played the least first. Yeah, let's do that. No, but yeah, but for sure, I have about 7 hours in. And if you guys know anything about me, that means I was not beelining anything. 7 hours in was me messing around with the systems, messing around with side stuff, just seeing what the game has to offer in terms of gameplay and things like that. So, story wise, though, I think the first thing that struck me as soon as I started playing the game is like, this is a very authentic indie product. Like if you've watched
Extremely.
if you watch indie movies, if you even played prior indie games, like there's just a certain way like a movie begins, right? Where it's like a cold open, and you know that indie is right in the smack dab in the middle of something super dangerous, where guaranteed somebody's gonna betray him, guaranteed somebody's gonna die, and guaranteed he's gonna escape barely with his life. And all the while you don't really see his face up until a certain moment where it's like, there he is, Harrison Ford. And the game did all of those things perfectly. So immediately I was like, this is indie, and they know the essence of indie in that regard. So it was great to see that. In terms of details of the story, I haven't played enough to really kind of get the gist of the overall gist of kind of what the big deal is with the Great Circle. So I haven't gotten that far in. But what I will say is, what I've seen so far from characters, especially like main characters, main story characters, whether it's Indy and his closest sort of friends and comrades, in terms, they look great, they animate great, voice acting is great. You will see a lot of faces there from blast from the past from movies, which is very cool to see. So in that regard, the production value is amazing, and that they're if you know indie, it's going towards something big, some kind of big reveal, some big revelation. That's kind of what indie is. So I'm fully expecting to see that at some point, some big turning point that's going to show you what really is the big deal that's going on here. So again, I haven't gotten that far to really see it, but what I've seen of the voice acting so far, and just kind of the interactions, it's just great to know that this team knows the essence of indie, and it's coming through right from the very beginning. So in terms of that's kind of all I have so far.
Okay, so we I think King, man, what you think of the story, and how long do you have in the game?
I got I'm 14 hours in. I'm double solving.
14 in.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm doing all the minutia things like
As well, just like me.
yeah. I literally go to a path. I love the fact that you can go through a path and there's another path that can lead to the same point that you have to reach, but there's different ways for you to get there. If it's climbing something, going down through something, going through a cave. But like Sovereign said, my initial I was looking at the graphics and I said, man, they gotta nail this. They gotta nail this. They gotta nail Harrison Ford's face. And I didn't know how they was gonna do it, but they spot on with it. When he turned around and he put his hat on and he oh my God, I was like, yes, this feels like the movie. It has a gravitas to it. It has a weight to it. And it's hard to explain because other games in its ilk, they don't have this gravitas. Like, is when he's climbing up a rope, it feels like it's like there's a tension there. And I don't know how they achieved the tension. I don't know how it was done, but it's there. And everything in the world feels very weighted. When you pick up a relic, each relic, and how you twist it in your hand, it doesn't twist in a way that is unhuman like. It actually bends and twists in a way that makes sense, if that makes sense, me explaining it to you. Wood looks like wood, metal looks like metal, everything looks like how it's supposed to look. If you're looking at something like a Sistine Chapel type of mural, it looks like it. The foliage in the jungle, it looks like a jungle. So anybody that's worried about does it meet the criteria of an Indiana Jones, and if this is your first take on Indiana, trust me, it fits it to the bill. I'm the kid that went to every movie that he's ever released that has anything to do with Indiana Jones, and I sit there with the same wonderment of how he's going to get out of this next. So being able to control The whip was an amazing thing. I didn't know how they was going to get that across, and it came across perfectly. Um, it's it's so many layers to it, and it doesn't hold your hand in a way that says you have to do it this way. It's Indiana Jones your way. Now you can do a whole lot of things that I didn't do and have a different story from me, but the area that I'm in right now, and it's vast, and it's just the beginning area. It's insane to think that this is just here, play with this small area, because I know this is probably the smallest area in the game initially, and it's going to branch off into another biome that's going to be equally as impressive and larger in scope. So the story so far is doing Indiana Jones stuff. The beat of the game moves at a movie type pace, and I'm like 14 hours in, and it feels like I owe them money, to be honest with you, because normally when you go to a movie and you sit down and you have a good time, it's over in like 2 hours. No, so far I'm 14 hours in and I didn't even scratch the surface. So I'm pleasantly pleased at that, because I thought it was going to be a short experience, and it's not.
What about you, Cog, man?
Ooh.
I feel, I don't know why, I feel like you about to say 60, 70 hours. Every time I turn around, this man was playing it like all night, all day. How many hours you have, and what was your experience with the story?
Probably about 20, but I'm almost embarrassed. I think King said it best, is that I got stuck just in the wonderment of the Vatican. and I didn't realize how basically obviously we talk about the story, but I didn't realize coming into this game that I'm thinking it's very linear. It's going to be more hub world and at max hub world. And I'm like, this is mini open world on certain levels. And I really got into it, as far as the story and stuff like that. My background in it is a little different. Obviously I know of him, I remember Temple and Doom, a couple movies here and there, but I would never say I'm like the hardcore Indiana Jones guy, but I do understand the essence of the character. And as someone coming into it who haven't watched these movies in a long time, and I'm just like, man, this feels like that blockbuster of the summer kind of movie that this would be in theaters, coming soon with the trailers and the witty one-liners, the energy. And, shout out to Troy Baker. I mean, to me, I can't tell the difference, with the young portraying a young indie. Now, obviously, the
He
hardcore
kind of sounded just like Harrison Ford. I'm gonna be honest.
yeah, like I'm sitting there like
it
this.
sounded just like him. No one, when you see stuff like this, because until you just said that, I thought that was Harrison Ford. I'm gonna be honest with you. I honestly did not know who
you
was
telling me
playing.
that it's not?
It's not. It's not Harrison Ford.
Troy
And,
Baker,
and,
man.
and then that really shows you the skill that man has. Like,
Yeah, and the thing that I love about it, the game is, like I said, he's fantastic. The set pieces, everything is just so indie. The one-liner, everything is extremely cinematic. You walk a couple of steps, you talk to someone, it's a whole bunch of cinematics. The thing that really impressed me, the reason why I got so lost in the sauce with the game in the earlier levels, is that the amount of care put into the side quests and the puzzles match the main story quests, right? Kind of thing. And that's the thing that I'm like, wow, I'm really enjoying this. I know we'll get into gameplay, I know we'll get into stuff later, but the last thing that I never do in games is, I know, Attic, you gonna laugh. You know how you anti-book bag gang. You anti, I'm not collecting all this.
No.
I'm not doing this. I'm beeline, right? And for the most part, I'm with you. Well, for the most part, I don't do all that stuff. But the way indie story is so captivating and so much care, you come across a side quest, there's a full-on cinematic, and then they want to reward you with amazing things to incentivize you to keep doing extra stuff. So it's the essence of indie. It's the essence of sleuthing, detectiveness. Yeah, and it's the essence of being nosy, not minding your business. You know what I'm saying? It's the essence of stealth, and there's so much to impact here.
To speak of the stealth, right? And
we'll get to that.
We get to that. We get to
okay.
that. Hold that thought, because I've been thinking about you, Saul.
Because it felt like there was some influences there, and I'm like,
definitely
influence that we're gonna say for later on.
We're gonna say for later.
Okay,
I know where you're going. I got balls for you there, but I just want to
Okay.
say, as far as the story, the set pieces, and I don't know if we're touching graphics. This is an absolutely gorgeous game. really, really beautiful to look at. And again, I was playing on Series X and stuff like that. But that's it for that. I got a lot more to say. I know Rand's got thoughts, but that's my initial early impressions of, story, just jumping into the Great Circle.
Yeah, Rand, tell me, man, how far have you got? And how'd you feel about the story?
So I beat the game. I have about 31 hours in the game. I have kind of gone back to mop up some of the collectibles I missed, some of those discoveries. But I went through the game. I did all the side missions, all the field work, all the mysteries, kind of as I went, and then I would go on to the next area. And you're kind of getting my thoughts raw here because I haven't even recorded anything for my own channel.
Neither
so
have I.
I'm kind of just sitting here stewing in my thoughts of indie outside of talking to Cog and Colt about it. And one of the first things that really jumps out to me was just the passion and the love that I could feel the team has for indie and the franchise in general. Because honestly, it feels like the long lost Indiana Jones movie that never came out.
Yeah.
Right? Like everything is authentic. You mentioned Harrison Ford. At some point during the game, I just stopped thinking it was Troy Baker. I'm like, no, this is Indy. This is what he sounds like. This is how he acts. Stuff like that. I love the globe trotting adventure that Indy always goes on. The different places that you go, and then the mystery of the Great Circle. What is it? What does it do? Why are there people? Why are the Nazis after it? Why is there a group protecting it and stuff like that, right?
And I'm sure Rand can attest. We won't say it, but when you find out what the mystery is, you did not see it coming.
No, I definitely did not see it coming. But it was the game is I really really liked it. I spent so much time the last 4 days completing it, walking around the Vatican, marveling at like how they constructed it, or going through the dig sites of Giza, the Great Sphinx, and the temples, getting down and dirty. Like, there's a part of Indiana Jones that I've always liked in the movies where you have like the modern structures, the modern infrastructure, but then underneath it are the secrets, right? Where you go into these tombs, you go into these temples that haven't been seen by a living person in thousands of years, and you're there looking around, and then there's usually a puzzle that has to be solved. And I think the puzzles maybe they vary in degree of difficulty, but I gotta say, like, when it just comes to the presentation of putting on an authentic Indiana Jones experience, which you would get from a movie, I feel like this game nailed that aspect completely and then some. Because like you guys, I was expecting, all right, we'll get a laser focused linear adventure perhaps, but nah.
Oh,
like
stop with your hand gesture.
I get into it.
Like he's directing air traffic. Like
I see him on the right way.
I see him too. Yeah. No, I mean it really exceeded what I was, because I thought it was going to be something else, and what I got, it was like, okay, yeah, like I'm digging this. Like you're walking around the Vatican, and instead of there being like, all right, it's a linear thing, there's secrets to find.
Yep.
There's things to explore, and it's like, oh man, this is really cool, right? So, yeah, I don't have any like my impressions on the story and stuff are, it was absolutely fantastic. I love the story through and through.
All right, so me myself,
How about you?
I beat it.
Mhm.
I think it took me about 30, 35 hours.
That's
Couldn't
wild.
exactly tell you how long. No, the game is a lot longer than I originally anticipated.
Mhm.
And keep in mind, this is one of the games that I did do a little bit of book bag.
What's going on?
Because they'll be doing stupid stuff like, oh, you can't come in here without this. I'm like, oh, I need an outfit. Then I go in there and look, and they show me the outfits in this area, and I go over there, and I see the thing on a table, but they're like, you need a key. I'm like, well, how do I get the key? And then before you know it, I'm in a fortress looking through that, and then it leads me to some I remember there's a perspective like towards like the middle of the game. I found a key, just a key. And they're like, oh, this is what it's to. I'm like, well, where's that at? And then I looked on the map. Oh, it's over here. Like,
this is huge, y'all. I got to interrupt. This is Yusuf. This
Oh,
is the man who will be like, he's Lord Addict for a reason. He's addicted to the main quest and beeline and getting things done. But to hear you have enjoyment in side quests on a game, I gotta know, like, I know story was part of it, but was it that? What is it that captivated you to say, no, I want to do some of these?
I think what it was is like the mystery behind it. Like it wasn't like some person that sit there and said, "What are you buying?" and then gave you a quest or anything like that. It was just like, we're gonna drop a key right here in the middle of this. We ain't gonna tell you what it's for. We ain't gonna tell you where it goes. We're gonna tell you the name of it, which is how you're gonna find where it goes. But that's all we giving you. And then it's like my mind just like, because most of the time when the NPCs are like, "Hey, over here," I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm good on you. I don't even talk to them." But when you give me a key and I'm looking at the key and they're like storage, treasure key, I'm like, I gotta know where it goes to now. Like
Curiosity,
so, yeah.
incentive, mystery. Okay.
Yeah.
I like
So,
when
yeah.
you walk up on a box and the box doesn't, you don't know it's a puzzle and it's a full blown puzzle. And it's just in the middle of the room for no reason.
For no reason.
For no reason.
What about, see, for me, I'm the dude that walks along like the perimeter of every room. Like you see me walking along. And there was one I was looking and I'm just like, why is this painting upside down? And I'm just like, oh, huh.
I know exactly what you're talking about too.
Yeah.
And I was like, if you're not looking at things with that level of minutia, you're not going to see it. You're just going to
I didn't see it.
And I'm just like, oh. And
I probably walked right straight through that room. But like that's probably the way they wanted it.
And it was in that particular area. In that particular area, I think it was like there's 3 total you can find there. So there's more things like little anomalies like that you just have to. If you're seeking things out, you will find them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when we comes to this, what I like about this is the gaming industry here lately, and they've done it for a while. Shadow of Mordor, Indiana Jones. They respect the material. They respect the lore. They respect where it came from. They don't disrespect people. Paramount, and Halo. Respect the coverage, because when I'm playing this game, nothing, and I absolutely mean nothing about this game, did not scream Indiana Jones. They from the music playing, from the way it literally, like Grant said, this ain't a game. This is a next level interactive movie, but with gameplay.
This Lost Indiana Jones movie.
It's the movie that didn't drop, that never came out. Yeah,
that should have come out instead of those other ones.
But, hey, did you guys have it on your bingo card for someone to bring up Halo and an Indiana Jones review? Because I didn't.
I did. Yeah, definitely was in there.
It's just showing, like, the reason I brought that up is because it just infuriates me. The movie people, they don't respect gaming, but when games do the other way around, it's respected. So it is what it is on that. One thing that I will say is, like, I know people are going to compare this to other Tomb Raider, Uncharted. One thing I will say about this is, like, when you play like Uncharted, I feel like that's more Nathan Drake is out and about and he comes across treasures, but it's more about the smoke. Like, oh, he's a mass murderer, just mowing down people. I felt like this game was very grounded. You felt like a treasure hunter. Like the prime thing was a treasure. There'd be a section where you find all this treasure, and I'm sitting here like, dude, there's literally fortunes below your feet. Fortunes below your feet. And he's like, oh, look at this. And I'm like, so it just shows that, like, that's what, once again, Indiana Jones being Indiana Jones. I feel like the story it's one of those things where it just picks up more and more. And is it like the best story that's ever been told? No, it's kind of self-explanatory. You kind of see where it's going, besides like the actual like objective, because that's the whole thing. What are they going for? What's the circle? And that was the whole point. And when they tell you that, you're like, yo, that was actually pretty interesting. And what I want to bring up too, and I don't know how you guys feel about it, I always think it's like interesting how we've gotten to where like a lot of media don't want to come across like Nazis or anything like that. And it's interesting when you see like these old films that are very integrated to them, bring it in, because I ain't gonna lie, I'm not used to seeing this type of scenario anymore. So it was kind of weird.
No, it was. That's a good point. And it to me, it goes to show you this is Machine Games influences coming from the the Wolfenstein,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to incorporate that. And then, from my understanding,
And they
Rand,
did
this
it
is
really well.
yeah, they use this almost like a canonized version of where it would fit between the films, right, and where it would go. But what I liked, and I think King will really appreciate as you go on. And again, I'm going to continue to rave about the story and the lore when it comes to the adventures, the mysteries, and things of that nature. They're utilizing true things. That you talk, you get your rock, and you get when you're in the Vatican, and it's like here's Pope this and here's Pope that with
Mm-hmm.
take this and say that, and they're using true lore, ideology, histories, things of that nature inside the puzzles and stuff like that as well. And I thought that was a really nice touch. It just added to the flavor of the game. So I thought they really did a fantastic job incorporating, obviously the Nazis and what's their motivations here. What's going on with that? I just love.
There's a point that I love because it shows Indiana Jones in his most like weakness, where a treasure gets broken. He's like, oh,
Oh, yeah.
he was mad defeated when it comes to that. But that's pretty much all when it comes to the story. I really normally most of the time I play games for gameplay, but I do feel like this is one of the opportunities where I got to play a game for both.
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out to the characters, obviously that are portrayed as solved
that's
issues.
what we get into right now.
Yeah,
Actually,
let's go for it.
characters.
Go for it.
I actually feel like this is some of the best voice acting I've seen in a while. I felt like some of
Yeah.
these voice actors were extremely well done. Voss, in my opinion, was one of the VIPs. Every time that dude came up and he was making those weird sounds, I'm like, this dude gotta go. Like, he's like one of those things where you see him and you just like, oh my, this dude. You'll be having like a scene where you're panning out and Indy's doing something and you just hear Voss in the background. So, Mr. Jones! Like, Dr. Jones!
Dr. Jones.
Dr. Jones.
Yeah, so
And that
Rand, we're gonna start
accent.
with you first, man. Like, in terms of the characters, how are you feeling about them? Obviously, we can't talk about all the characters, but how did you feel about the performance of the characters in general? It was to the point, Rand, where I'm gonna be real with you. I was like, why ain't some of these in that Video Game Awards performance?
Well, yeah. I mean, if this game had come out early enough, Troy Baker would definitely 100% be nominated for performance of the year because he killed it as Indiana Jones, right? And the game puts you into the first person perspective, which I know is a choice that not a lot of people agree with, right? They wanted to be able to see Indy from behind, your typical third person game. But the more I played the game, the more I felt comfortable being in first person. Like, the game is designed to be like, you are Indiana Jones. You are going to look at these levels and solve these puzzles as how Indy would be looking at them instead of from third person. But I thought the characters were great. Like you with Voss, he seems to be the way at least I looked at Voss. Like, he's the Nazi counterpart to Indiana, right? It's
He was a
almost
little
like
too good at his job. Like, he was
he's
a little
almost
too
like a
good at
dark.
that.
He's almost kind of like a dark reflection of Indiana Jones,
Mhm.
right? Because he's a contemporary. They're not friends, but they know of each
And you
other.
can tell he respects them. They
Yeah,
both
like,
respect
there's like
each other.
there's a respect there a little bit because they both like love finding mysteries. Except Indy kind of wants to, it belongs in a museum, right? He wants to unearth these
Preserve.
things and preserve it, where Voss wants to find it and dominate it and use it to expand the Nazi empire, right? So it's like it's interesting from that viewpoint of like, hey, it's just like, what if Indy was bad? He would be Voss, right? And then the other character that you have to talk about is Gina, right? In most of these games, there's always a companion. In Indiana Jones fashion, you got Marion in the first movie. Oh God, you have the blonde in the Temple of Doom. I can't remember her name right off the top of
Indy
my
always
head.
had companions.
And then you also had the other
that's Elsa
Elsa,
Schneider.
and then you had the other blonde in Last Crusade. I can't
It's
remember her
always a
name
chick.
either.
It's always
Yeah,
a chick.
it's always a girl, and they're always there because you have the back and forth conversations. And in video games, you also always have a companion because they got to be, jiving back
Banter.
and forth, taking up the dead air so they can talk. And Gina, I thought was a pretty good character. Now I know like some people might get mad at like, oh, girl boss, right? Because there are instances where she's around Indy so much that she does help out Indy in certain situations, just like he helps her out. Because it's kind of that relationship. But I feel like Indy's trying more because this is set directly after he left Marion. I mean, it's like said like right at the beginning, like Indy, you can't run away from your problems, right?
Yeah.
And then so he's with Gina, so there's that common. They're both looking for something, right? Indy's looking for the Great Circle. Gina wants to know what happened to her sister. So you have that whole interplay, and I thought it was great. I thought like all the voice acting was phenomenal, especially between Boss and Indiana Jones, and having Gina with you the whole time. I thought was it was like this is Indiana Jones, you know. So I was more than happy with all the characters in the game.
Oh man, how those characters be acting where you are in the game? Has any of them annoyed you yet?
Not annoyed me, man. Like I said at the start, they haven't had a chance to annoy me yet. But I was just really just astounded to see how well they were realized, and to see these faces from the movies, like specifically like right at the start of the game, and I just won't give details. I'm playing, I'm like, is that Doc Ock? It is Doc Ock, and I'm like, wait a minute. And you remember watching Temple of Doom the first time and watching Raiders of the Lost Ark the first time and seeing these faces. I'm like, okay, wow, they're really going for it. I said the very little that I've had like that initial interaction, right? I've had obviously Marcus, right? His kind of his right hand at school, right? That kind of facilitates all of the stuff that he gets to go out and do and travel and leave his studies behind and leave his students behind and go travel the world and do what he does. And then obviously in the Vatican there was the character of Father Antonio, right? His buddy in the Vatican. So again, those interactions to this point have been very genuine, very movie like, and super well done. And then even like to Cog's point, anytime you go and do a side quest, it results in a little bit of a moment, right? Of kind of a cutscene, which in and of itself is well acted and well filmed, and even these minor characters in these side quests are very well realized. They have their own attitudes. If they everybody has a little, everybody's quippy, right? Indiana Jones is the king of the short, sarcastic quippiness, and all the characters, they kind of give as well as they receive, and I just think they realize that so well. And I'm only in the early parts of the game, and even like talking about the initial sort of villain characters, right? With the Italian fascists, they call them, the black shirts, right? I must have heard fascists like a million times.
Yo, everybody, it'd be like fascists talking to the corner. Fascists said this,
fascist that, fascist this. And it's funny when you have subtitles on, you see it and you
see literally. It's funny when
but even those characters, just seeing their mannerisms and stuff like that. I mean, I have my little quips with how they look, obviously, because there is a delta between how the main characters look and how the NPC characters look. Really, like the ones that aren't really story related. And you look at the faces, you're like, oh, okay. but even so, like the great thing about this franchise and the characters is that all the characters are sort of caricatures of who they are, particularly the villains, right? Nazis are so bad that you don't feel bad about murdering them and doing whatever. So you have to have that, has to kind of come through in how they characterize in the game, and they are that you look at them and it's like, oh, these are just bad guys. Like that they really stand out as bad guys. So it's like they got all of that right to the point where the atmosphere, all of that melds so beautifully that, again, I'm just excited to see what more of these characters you guys are talking about and how they kind of influence the story and their interactions with Indy. Because again, I'm just at surface level of it, and I already see the attention to detail and how that attention to detail creates just that indie atmosphere that we're talking about, the authentic indie feel and atmosphere. So to this point, what I've seen, which is very little, I'm very pleased with how these characters are being portrayed.
King David. Yeah, I'm curious to see what your opinion on this is, man. Hit us up, man. How's the characters in the game?
Well, from the very beginning, a lot of the characters play into the tropes when he goes in with his initial team to go excavate for that treasure in that cave.
I'd wondered where you'd got to. What happened?
Where did he go?
Who?
The giant.
I didn't see any giant.
I caught someone breaking into the museum. He was tall. He took something.
Well, did you see his face?
Scarred. Dark skin. He spoke some form of Latin.
Latin? Well, that is a novelty.
Come on, Marcus. We need to find out what he took.
Yes, righto. This display case has been ransacked. Is there anything missing?
Let's have a look.
We should look around for the exhibits.
And it pretty much played out like an old indie film, which was really dope. And the level of betrayal and stuff that happens throughout is pretty cool.
He's like, give me the whip. I was like, no, Indy.
Well, King, it is literally that scene. It's
exactly the same scene.
Right. It is the scene. It is that movie.
Yeah. So it's like, but the faces,
yes,
the chest hair on the guy.
Shout out to the chest hair on your man.
Shout out to the chest hair.
Pablo and them.
Yo, his taco meat was outside, son. I said, yo, I had to stop.
I noticed.
I said, your man's taco meat is the best taco meat I've seen.
Wow.
Like, I'm not even gonna hold you. I was like, yo, they really took the attention to detail to the taco meat.
I was like, yo, but she game's leveled up there. I'd never see the game too.
What I like is the skin. Like, cause all right, so it's a scene in the very beginning when something happens to one of the characters, and you get up close and you look at the eyeballs and the frozen horror in his face and his skin.
Mm-hmm.
Now, prior to that, he had a level of life in him, and the skin reflected that. But at this point, and I don't know if y'all look back at it, but I was looking at it and I was like, the life was removed from it, and they did it in a way that it just visually it looked outstanding. I knew it was going to be a tour de force when it came to that, and the character development is on another level. Now, I do not like One Priest because he is absolutely racist to Americans, and he was like, we don't want this type of filth in the Vatican. I was like, hey, yo, like, because he was American, he's like, you watching him. All right. Like, I need to be watched because I'm gonna do bad stuff. Yeah. And it just incentivized me to do bad things because I started doing extremely bad stuff after I was trying to break stuff. I was just trying to do bad stuff. But yeah, just I met one scientist or one archaeologist in an area, and I said, oh, he looks like well put together. Like, he's not like everybody else. And I gotta call you guys out. I can't hold back here. Why all the NPCs got the same NPC face, bro? Like,
they do.
Like, they got three different faces. One with a hat, one without a hat. And I'm just like, yeah, I just beat you up and threw you in the corner.
It's only when you have like the different ranks have different faces. Like
when you get to the captain,
yeah.
So I was just like, but the grunts, they all got the same grunt face. But the actual characters that mean something to the story, they have the same level of detail that Indy has. And that's very rare. Usually the main character has over, I don't know how many million of polygons, and the meaningful NPCs probably like have like 800,000, and then the grunts have like 50. But now these guys look like they were motion scanned. Everything was in place. The archaeologist that I was talking to, it was a scene that played out, and the articulation and the eye tracking. That's what got me the most. When they're talking to each other, they're looking in each other's eyes. Normally, games don't get that right. Like they're looking, but they're looking like a blank stare into like the ether, but they're not looking at each other. Like the polygons don't mesh. But this actually works here. It's this one scene. This one scene where I go up to this room because I hear a ruckus inside behind the room. I'm like, "What's going on in there? I want to be in there." And the guy comes up. Only exceptional people only.
Oh, I know you. Yeah. I know you.
What the hell he mean exceptional people?
Yeah.
That was my whole quest to
Just
get in that room.
Get in that room.
I forgot about everything else because I was listening to the door. I said they're having so much fun in there.
Yeah, because you see the eye track look at you up and down and be like,
only exceptional people. Only. I was like, I tried to jam a stick in the door. I tried to do everything to get in there.
You try to get in that club.
Yeah, so I do like where I'm at with the NPCs that are there. The characters are fine right now. Me meeting Candyman in the beginning was a wild situation. And the fact to see him there, that was a thing too.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know what level of motion capture that they use and what's face scanning that they're doing, what
It's
technology
good.
that they're using, but it's really, really good. And the attention to detail you can tell is there. Every character is well fleshed out, and they do have their own backstory, and it feels like it's a lived-in character who's just not just placed there just to push the plot along, but who actually like lives and breathes inside the game, which is kind of weird if I'm being honest.
I agree. I'll just quickly add.
You man.
Yeah.
Tell us what we want to hear, not what we need to hear.
Yeah, strong character, strong. Like Rand said, Voss commands the screen. Like to me, when he gets on, you want to know what's going on, what's the motivations. There's clearly a disdain and a familiarity with both, between himself and Indy. And I just love the authenticity with the accent. That German accent is ringing out here. Like he's enunciating, you know what I'm saying? And it really is a passionate performance. Obviously, Indy is Indy, and I just love the quips, the one-liners, the being a smart A with certain things. And then, like Ren again mentioned with, Gina's presence here. Gina, the vibe I got is, Indy, is a little reluctant, with certain with interacting and stuff like that. But as you go on, they develop a relationship, and you start to see that type of interaction. What I do like is that when Indy is by himself, I love the way he talks through situations. Whether it be him experiencing something for the first time or just what I love about this game, which surprised me, is this is a discoverability game. This is a game of like, hey, we just got to this area. Wow, look at the beauty of said architecture or said thing. And you know what I mean? Like that. And I'm pulling the camera out every 5 minutes. And he has stuff to say. Now, that's not going to be for everyone, but for a person like me who really appreciates set pieces, great historical moments, great, archaeological things, or just something that is big in the scope of history, the game wants to tell you this, and Indy wants to verbalize that. The other thing is, it's really funny. It's absolutely hilarious because it's like, it's one of those things where it's like outrageous things are happening around you, but a lot of times for them, it just is like a Wednesday. So they kind of joking and talking through it and stuff like that. But that's the essence of Indy, though. That's like what the films to me always kind of represent. But I think, and then obviously what King was talking about, in terms of the harrowing experiences and NPCs going through certain things. Again, Machine Games is really, really shining here, big time. Say as far as the way these characters talk, look, interact with each other, and then kind of move the plot along. So yeah, that's just pretty much what I had as far as that. And last thing is, I do specifically fear captains when they are walking around. When they are walking around, and I know we're gonna get into gameplay, we're gonna get into stealth, and
that doesn't look like that you belong in that costume.
Yeah, that priest outfit's a little unkempt. Let me go check what's going on over there. There's a tension there, you know what I'm saying? And again, I do like that aspect that they do the voice acting and stuff like that. But that's pretty much what I got as far as the characters. I know we're gonna get into other stuff, but what you got, Attic?
Yeah, we're going into gameplay at
Let's
this
get it.
point. All right, so we're gonna start with gameplay. I'm gonna start with Cognito. There are a couple things I want everyone to touch on. If you need me to repeat them, that's fine. I want you to elaborate on the cinematics of the game, how you felt playing gameplay, how cinematic it was, the puzzles in the game. I feel like that's definitely one of the pillars of Indiana Jones, from movies to games. Hand-to-hand combat and guns. You know, how did you feel using both? Did you use both? I also want to go over the stealth mechanics in the game, because I feel like that is one of the pillars of Indiana Jones as well. Side quest and the AI for the enemies. Let's start with Cognito.
Yeah, lot to unpack here.
It's gonna be. I think this is gonna be kind of divisive.
Yeah. This is gonna be the
This
probably
is
the
this is where a lot of the divisiveness and people's opinions are gonna show through.
Yeah,
For sure.
absolutely, Rand. Absolutely. Look, let's start with what I really enjoyed. As a person who loves stealth and exploration and going off the beaten path, the thing that surprised me again was the scope of the game. I'm expecting very linear. I'm not expecting to go off the beaten path and be rewarded for it. That's the second thing I noticed is this is a very stamina heavy game. Like he's stamina for everything. Picking up a body, Indy, you got to hit the gym sometimes because your cardio, bro. Like your joint, like
The calves are not there.
calves are not there. You picking up
And
these.
you know what's crazy? One would think that man would have the best lungs in the world, as much as he be running. And...
Yeah, you gonna have to. I was moving bodies for very short distance early in the game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's the first thing I noticed. Even when he hangs from ledges, he's moving around. Everything is stamina. We're gonna get into the combat, putting them dukes up. You know what I'm saying? And then doing your charge swings and stuff like that. Stamina focus like that. Now I think the point of contentions, I think what Rand's alluding to, is going to be one combat as far as getting a flow of the hand to hand. Shout out to Ibanez. I was talking with him. At first, I did not have the flow of it. I'm gonna be honest with you. And I was concerned, like, man, I like the way the hit sound. It's like it's like someone's getting whipped up. Like I do like that part, right? But like I wasn't getting my 52 on. Like I wasn't able to get it in at first, and I didn't know what I was doing wrong. So basically, left bumper is kind of like your parry. Right trigger is right hand, left hand, right? You could charge up, throw hooks, things like that. And when it started, it took a while, but when it started to click for me is I parry. And then what was happening was at first I was making a mistake of then trying to attack with the same hand, and then Indy's doing a push animation to shove them away. I'm like, bro, what's up? Throw them hands, let it go. And it was frustrating me at first, right? So what I end up realizing was like, again, I said the E, do it like say if I parried the punch, throw the opposite hand like boxing. And I'm like, oh, and then it started to come together. And then
real quick, let me interrupt you.
Yes,
I
please.
never had that issue because I never used my left hand half the time.
Right, because
I always guard with my left and punch with my right every time. Every single time. And sometimes I forget I have access to my left hand.
Exactly. I know where you're going. And where you were playing that way, I was playing that way. I wasn't doing what you were doing when we were talking about, which is you were utilizing the whip more. Right. I really was only using the whip for traversal. And the game introduces the whip to, hey, you can lash people out and then maybe drop a weapon. I don't know, for whatever reason, I got away from that, and I made it a hand-to-hand game, and then I started to realize things started to get easier. I will say one of the funniest things with the whip, though, and Rand, you got to laugh at this, is as you progress in the game and dogs start to be a factor, wolves start to be
the whip.
Oh, you come here, Wolf. You want to start that? and they get into this obedience.
There's gunshots too.
Yes, the obedience. Y'all pack of wolves ain't gonna be doing nothing over here with Indiana Jones. You can get your lashes in.
What you doing? What you doing?
And the final thing I say, I know everyone's gonna elaborate. I don't want to take up all the time, but this is where, and I was thinking of solve all this time, because this game, again, it's a lot of adventure, it's a lot of exploration, and they actually try to introduce stealth mechanics. Now, this is the controversy to me as far as Indy. This is where it's going to be divisive, right? Now, Indiana Jones himself is a character. They're having fun and whatever. And I get it. The game doesn't take itself extremely seriously. But for people who are coming into the core stealth experience and wanting a pure 1,000% accurate stealth, there are some issues here. And what I feel is that it is, for example, Rand, we talked about like if an enemy sees you, right, you'll get that, right? And the circle will fill, showing you how much they perceive what you're doing is out of pocket and then want to go investigate. I've had situations where I'm like, fam, you do kind of see me. I'm kind of out of pocket, or I'm jumping in a pool, I'm jumping off a ledge. I just did something completely out of pocket with a cleric suit on, and y'all not really reacting.
Yeah. I will
What do you have it on?
God bless you, Padre.
But here's the thing: I will defend them on certain situations where if you're like crouching a little bit out and it pops up a little bit over their head, I would understand from a perspective of a real person. You'd be like, "Yo, I don't know." It's like the white complex. I got to go there and investigate.
Right.
Like,
But there's sometimes, like, I'm sorry, I'll let you finish again.
So I can understand from that perspective, but I do agree with you. The AI in this game is very inconsistent.
Very inconsistent. Because at first,
what level are you playing?
I'm playing good. I am playing on the moderate difficulty. Now, Attic, you are playing on a difficulty higher than me, right? You were playing on the
higher than you.
And I am as well.
Okay, so you guys are all high. Red, what difficulty you played on?
I switched. I started on moderate, and then I would up it to hard and then drop it back depending on how tough situations we're getting. But there are 4 difficulties you can choose from. It's
yes,
I'm on the third.
Easy, normal, hard, and very hard.
Right, and there's what's interesting. There's also a difficulty for the level of puzzles, which is really cool too for people who don't want to do that. But just to get back on the AI, so this is
the Kid Smooths of the world.
Standard. So I wanted to put the game through its paces, so I'm testing. So at first I was worried. There's no look, you play a Metal Gear or one of these type of games when one person feels something is inconsistent, or let's say this game you can lay people out and you can leave the bodies where you want to lead them and you can hide them, right? So I was worried that the AI, after they see it, they just going back as normal and there's no search and find what's going on here mechanic as a group, as a collective to find Indy kind of. I was worried. Now I did get to a later level, I believe Geese and stuff like that, where I did see that mechanic and I seen people actively searching, but then they kind of
start whistling. Did you get to the point where they're whistling?
Whistle. You got, and I will say, shout out to the snitches. They are there's literally a whistleblower snitch kind of person. Yeah. And if he see you and you see those red exclamation marks with everybody else, the whole team is coming, and the game is designed that you really
a lot of captains. Almost every captain has a whistle.
Yeah, and they got the gats, and they really it's not designed for you to kind of win those conversations. You can, but it's really that's where the game thing is. So that my thing is the inconsistency with the stealth will be my main thing as far as someone who is looking for like the true, authentic, hardcore stealth experience. You will see some inconsistencies there, but I did feel that for the most part, the game will let you tackle things how you want to tackle it. But I got more to say there. I'm gonna open it up for everybody, but that was my main thing coming into it from the stealth standpoint and the combat standpoint.
All right, go into puzzles and side quests.
All right, puzzles. Now, this is where the game shines to me. This is where the game absolutely is just phenomenal. Again, I am not a person who sits there and tries to do every puzzle and stuff like that. But the challenge of these puzzles are very clever. And they're not, some of them require some extra thought, and they'll remove certain information from some of the puzzles so that it's not as straightforward as you may think. Because you may think, I got it kind of thing. And what I like about it is when you use the camera option, what Indy does is they'll right trigger and sometimes he'll talk and he'll give hints with main storyline puzzles. Like, hey, you might want to think about this. Maybe if I move the light on this area to this direction, this may happen and stuff like that. Yeah. Please.
What's funny is you could use that damn camera and it still tells you nothing.
Well, main stuff it will though.
The main stuff it can still tell you nothing. It tells you how to do the puzzle, but it won't tell you like anything on like a hint on if you're stuck on a certain part of the puzzle. Right. They're like, nah, I'm just telling you how to do it. Yeah, like, it's up to you to do it.
Yeah, just a generalization of what may be going on here from a gameplay wise. But I will say, and again, Rand, we talked about it, is that, there was some that I kind of kicked myself. I'm like, man, I can't figure this out. But it's so well. My curiosity was so satiated. I could not leave the level. until I got, to the essence of this, whether it be, toy boxes and statues and just safes, you know what I'm saying? And the cleverness and the way they handle it. And I think that, to me, that's one of the strengths of the game. I really, again, it may be controversial for some, maybe if you're looking for this pure action heavy experience, maybe this is not for you in that respect. But if you're a person who loves a sense of adventure and loves figuring out and not like puzzles that are just disrespectful to your time, because of the and I think Rand and King mentioned, because the game is in first person, I'll be honest, I wouldn't want it any other way. I think this was a fantastic decision. I know
little things like putting your hand on something and switching it back and forth.
Yes,
there was more highlights.
Grabbing, interacting with levers, doing stuff like that. Like, there's certain things where we talked about to the cinema, pouring blood into a certain situation. That the Jesus Christ puzzle was lit. Like, I love the Jesus Christ, but that joint was super lit. Like, and the references and everything there. And to me, that's where I respect the decision for first person, because we don't get this level of interactivity and cinematic nature when it comes to puzzles. But I'm curious about what you guys thought in reference to all these things that we were talking about.
Let's do solve, man. How do you feel about the cinematic puzzles, hand-to-hand combat with the guns, the stealth, the side quests, and the AI?
Well, the cinematics, I think we talked about a little bit before, like, and just in terms of like, I think it's very well done. It feels like a movie. And I think even in the small things like the side quests and stuff, the fact that you have this cinematic sort of interaction kind of to start off the quest and kind of to end it off is something that you like to see in these games. You want to feel like that side stuff matters. And I think they do a great job with that. Now, when it comes to the gameplay, that's where I get a little disappointed in that specifically hand-to-hand combat and fisticuffs. I think it's fair to say that if you look at like the history of first-person hand-to-hand combat in games, we haven't come that far in terms of like the things we could do in first person that don't feel that kind of that don't feel a little wonky, right? And I was very interested to see how the indiness of that character comes through in first person, specifically the whip play, the fisticuffs, and just the puzzle gameplay, right? So from a combat perspective, I think I was a little disappointed with it in that it felt authentic to indie. The idea, like I had my revolver in one hand and then I could pull out my whip. It felt authentic to the point where I was like, okay, this is frustrating because I only had, like, I'm early in the game, so I only have the revolver, and it is literally one shot reload. So if you pull that out, you're looking at alerting everyone in the area and the entire team coming to get you, right?
You're just pretty much putting a signal. He's over here,
right? So that was it was cool that was authentic in that regard, but it was a little frustrating when it came to the combat. In terms of using the whip, I thought specifically in combat, you use it for traversal and you're able to latch onto things and you're able to climb up things, and that felt great. When it came to the combat, it was fun because you could disarm guys with it, you could stun guys with it. Eventually, if you long press it, you can grab guys with it and yank them and stuff like that. All that felt very good. But the hand-to-hand stuff just felt wonky. And it's not that I didn't get it. If you know me, you know that I love stuff with parries, and I was parrying it up, and it was a parry, bop, 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 parry, bop, 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 and it just kept happening. There was nothing to it really after a while, even playing on a slightly, what I would call like the heroic setting, right? So it was a little frustrating. I was like, oh man, it doesn't seem as deep as I want it to be. But again, I'm very early, so maybe that stuff evolves as you go on. So that stuff kind of left me wanting a little bit more, but the authenticity of like Indie's arsenal does come through. In terms of the puzzles, I've only done 2 puzzles. I actually just got the pieces to kind of do the puzzle that Cog is talking about. But all I've done so far is one puzzle that I found when I climbed through a window, and I was like, hey, what's this? And it was like a replica of the city or something like that. And you had to
toy box.
You had the toy box, right? So I did that, and that was cool. And then the only other one that I did was opening a safe that you needed. That again, there were things around the safe that gave you the clues as to how to open it. And what I loved about that is going back to that, the essence of indie, the sleuthing, like going back into my journal and looking at stuff that I had picked up to get the answers, right, and to give me context for the things that I'm seeing in the world. So I could be like, exactly, and it's like, oh wait, I have to go do this. And specifically for that one, it was one of those things that if I didn't read a note that came along with the diagram that showed me, the note tells you specifically the order to put the numbers in if you really read it. So I was like, oh, okay, I need to do both of these things. And it was just one of those things like, okay, yes, they put work into even this small little thing where you're opening a safe. And I wound up opening the safe and getting like a perk, right? So it was definitely worth doing. So I again, knowing that they put that much effort into something that small that early in the game, I know the later stuff is going to be cool. And again, as it just feels like they have that reverence for indie, and they know that's something that's important to an indie game. So I'm excited to see how the puzzles evolve throughout. The stealth was something that when I got to the Vatican area and I really noticed how big the game was, how it wasn't linear. I looked and I'm like, huh. I was like, did Arcane help with this game? Because I'm looking at it, and I'm like, there's so many different ways to traverse this that it feels like Metroidvania like. It feels Metroidvania like almost in a lot of ways. Where it's like, oh, not that you have to, get to Addict's point, you need keys to get in certain areas, whatever. It's not powers or anything like that. But there are so many ways to traverse and to get from point A to B that it feels like that type of game. Obviously, minus the murder arsenal that you have of like a Corvo or something like that. It's not that. But I was pleasantly surprised in that. Now, to Cog's point, I think the AI suffers in that it's not smart enough to make that really rewarding. In the same way that kind of I felt with like Ghost of Tsushima, where it's like they put it in here, but it's not what I want it to be. It's not what I need it to be. So it's very surface level. So the traversal part of it is cool in that you can find different ways to traverse and get to your different objectives. But in terms of what you go through to get there, it isn't what I want from a stealth game, right? Yes, you do have to fear the captains because the captains will see through your disguises. But for the most part, apart from that, you can walk if you have the proper disguise, you're walking around, normal, and you don't have to worry too much. So that again left me a little bit wanting. I was excited at the fact that the game isn't that linear and that there's a lot to see and explore. And again, that kind of gives texture to the world of indie, where you're walking through the Vatican and you're seeing, how beautiful the paintings look.
Bro,
you're
looking marble, bro.
You're looking at the marble, the reflections.
Bro.
Okay, so let me talk a little bit about the technical aspects of the version I'm playing.
PC,
I'm the only one playing on the PC. Thankfully, I'm able to play it like at I think the highest setting is like Supreme or whatever it's called. It's like a bunch of settings, and I'm able to run it there. And specifically, this game is a little bit of a mixed bag in that the faces, like we talked about before on the main characters, that looks amazing. Indoor environments look absolutely amazing. The indoors of the Vatican, everything, like Kai was saying, like just to the textures of the walls, the paintings, the banisters on the staircases, everything looks beautiful. When you get outside, it generally looks very nice. Foliage doesn't look super great. Just up close, it doesn't look super great. Doesn't look like more individualized. But generally, the overall look of the game is good. Attic, what were the other things that you asked about specifically?
So, want to go a little bit about puzzles. I want to go a little bit about hand-to-hand stealth,
Talked
AI.
about that. Yeah,
I gotta ask you this, not to interrupt you, Attic, because we're talking technical. Rand, I've had this question with you. One thing that I did notice on console is the game does a lot of switching between, cinematic and then the gameplay. And I don't know if it was I don't know what the technical term is. It doesn't happen all the time, but it was almost like this frame pacing issue with
There's a
switching.
stutter?
Like I don't know, it's very mild. I don't know how do we describe that, Rand?
It's stutter.
or like a stutter or something. Did you experience that on PC? Because I did see that a few times. It wasn't all the time, but some transitions between the cinematic and then going back to gameplay because its game is overly cinematic.
Yeah, I think there is technically the game suffers a little bit on PC in that it depends on where you're playing it, right? Because I have it installed two things. I have the NVIDIA build, that's the 4090 build, and then I have the AMD build. And honestly, it ran smoother on the
Well, you're one
AMD
of the few
build.
people that can actually really talk about PC performance. You got an
Oh, yeah.
NVIDIA and an AMD.
Yeah,
Mm,
the
got an AMD build?
the AMD build is fully AMD, right? AMD CPU, AMD GPU, and it's kind of equivalent to like a 4080 GPU, and it ran super smoothly. There's no FSR implementation. If you see at the beginning of the game, it very in big letters it says NVIDIA, and it's very much an NVIDIA sort of supported game. There is no FSR at this point anyway. And I also had issues trying to turn on HDR for both versions. It just didn't want to. It kept saying the hardware doesn't support it. I'm like, the hardware absolutely supports it. I don't know what's going on. So it didn't let me turn on HDR, so I couldn't see that. Now the stutter stuff, I do specifically see it when you transition from a cinematic right back into gameplay. And I also found that it kind of it hangs a little bit on third person before you're able to recontrol the character and go and it jumps back into first. Like it hangs, like it'll give you kind of the indication that you can control the character again, but you won't actually be able to control him for another second or so, and then he jumps back into first person you're able to control, so it hangs a little bit, and that transition isn't super smooth. So I know there's some stuff like that. On the NVIDIA side, I do get some of that micro stutter, and this is not a UE Engine 5 game. It's not none of that, but it's weird. Like when I turned on frame gen, it made the game stutter more. So it's technically on the back end, there's still some stuff that they have to work out to get it running as smoothly as possible. So I just had to drop down, certain settings, resolution a little bit, whatever, to get it running as smoothly as I wanted to. Yeah, overall it is a looker with certain things like we talked about before, like the NPC is not looking the greatest, the foliage is not looking the greatest, the outdoor environments generally looking good, but when you come up close to them, certain things they don't look as much. But the indoor environments are and the faces of the main characters and story-based characters are absolutely out of this world. But like I said, from a gameplay perspective, the hand-to-hand fisticuffs kind of disappointed me a little bit. I hope it evolves from there. Where I can kind of more seamlessly use the gunplay with the whip play, and I think that stuff felt authentic to indie. It's just that the fisticuff parts that it kind of. I'm never going to judge a game for what I want it to be, but that was the one moment where I was like, if this was in third person,
you had your
hand to hand,
regret.
that hand to hand, I'm thinking about Batman, I'm thinking about Mad Max, I'm thinking about, because again, when we look at the games, and to be clear, indie is the granddaddy of all of this. Indie is the this is where Nate Drake came from, this is where Lara Croft came from, and it all circled back around, right?
Right.
It's me for that moment imagining an indie game with a Batman Arkham level of sort of like going back and forth, or with
not here.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's not here. It's not here, and I think. When you look at first-person combat in games generally, and first-person combat, I'm specifically talking about hand-to-hand combat, not gun combat, but hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah.
Historically, it's clunky, and it's not as deep as you could get with a third-person game, right? So I was a little disappointed in that, but I want to see how it evolves. I am glad that the whip stuff and the gun stuff is there, and it's fun to use. I just think. After a while, let me speak about a specific scenario where the AI, I was like, oh man. So I shot that gun. Everybody and their mother came.
Yeah, the whole block.
I was hiding out.
They forgot that you were there.
They forgot I was there, literally by me just going around something. They were literally like 7 of them coming at me, and I killed one. Right, I killed one, and then I just ran around the back of a car, and they're like. Oh,
confusion.
Confusion. And the thing is, when I shot the gun, it feels like they're not they were not programmed to all inhabit the same space. They're kind of programmed to kind of walk their routines and
Their
stuff
routes
like
and their
that.
patrols.
Right, and their patrols. And when you do that and they all kind of congregate on the same space, they don't know what to do with each other. And they were all walking towards me like a horde of zombies. Like, it so happened that where I was standing was kind of a centralized place. So literally they were coming at me from all angles, and they were on top of each other because they didn't know what to do with each other. And then when they get to me, they're all kind of all fighting to fight me. And it was just, and me fighting back, it's just me ragdolling them and them landing on each other and looking dumb. And then when I feel overwhelmed, I run away a little bit. I'm literally kind of, I'm definitely within, their eyesight reach. And I just duck behind something and they forget about me. And they don't forget about me. They're like, where did you go? This, that, and the other. And you have that time period.
No, they will eventually forget about you entirely.
Yeah,
You had to suspend disbelief at that point.
Right, because I just hid behind that thing for a little bit, and they're kind of walking around looking, because they are. I'm not saying they'd be like, oh, I'm going back to my patrol. They made the effort.
This way, but we're gonna look this way.
Yeah, they made the effort, and then they all kind of went back to their thing once I was able to kind of avoid them for a little bit. So it was disappointing in that regard, where I'm just like, man, I need all of these things to gel together for that gameplay aspect of it to really come together. And that's where it disappointed me a little bit. Everything else so far that is very indie, it gets right. And just that is it's not hitting for me yet. And I'm hoping it expands and evolves as I play more in a way that's going to be satisfying for me.
King, I've been seeing you over there crying, man. I've been seeing this, man. I've been seeing this. Like, talk about we don't really got to go too much in the cinematics. The only reason I brought cinematics up for this is most games, I feel like cinematics doesn't really help, but games like this, Cyberpunk, that first person aspect, I feel like cinematics is one of the biggest key to really put you into that. Puzzles, hand to hand, just the combat in general, stealth, side quests, and the AI. So what's going on, King?
I'm going to talk about the good first. Side quest is incredible. I grabbed so many different things. I didn't even know I had a bunch of side quests when I opened my journal. I was like, oh, snap. I'm able to do this. I'm able to find this. I'm able to do that. Cinematics, fantastic cinematics. We've hit that, over the head. All right, Machine Games. We need you to come to the congregation, right to the front. Wolfenstein. Now, graphically, since you guys have been like on this tear with those games, graphically, you guys have definitely been top choice. I understand exactly why Xbox and Microsoft went to you and wanted you to take care of this title, because they knew that you will be able to deliver the cinematics that will give you the feel of indie. You was able to get the gravitas of indie. You was able to get the feel of an Indiana Jones movie. I think you probably had the best pitch out of all the developers that was inside there, all the studios that were there. You probably had the best pitch, and you won out, and you deserved it. But where I see you fell short, AI is atrocious. I don't care what level you put it on. It doesn't matter at all. It's absolutely atrocious. When I can fire a gun, hit a whip, and go hide in a corner, and everybody
Not
forgets about me.
that order.
Yeah. And, or if I'm in a stealth mission when in a restricted area that I'm not supposed to be in, I want them to diligently look for me, especially if I put it on the highest level. That is not there. So AI is completely clunky. Stealth missions are pretty much optional. I mean, you could be stealthy, or you could just brute force it if you got enough bandages.
I have a lot to say there. Yeah.
And get through it. It's not necessarily, oh, you caught me, I gotta start it over, like Star Wars.
King, there's an industry term for that. It's called player choice.
Yeah, well, I choose to have a better AI, and I choose for them to work on it. But I understood going into this,
right.
You had a lot of I think it was what is those people, Starbreeze or
the Black shirts? No,
Who made Riddick? Chronicles of
Starbreeze.
Riddick.
Starbreeze.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
All right, so they have a lot of developers that were there, a lot of workers that were on Starbreeze that are at Machine Games now, and you can see the same fighting mechanics. You can see the same AI algorithms being used from those Chronicle of Riddick games here. So in that regard, we haven't expounded on the first person fisticuffs, if you will. And that's disheartening because you thought, all right, y'all did enough research going into this to choose that this is going to be the primary way in which you're going to display the game, that you will have to evolve it in some form or fashion. It has not been evolved since Chronicles of Riddick, Butcher's Bay, or the original one. So again, I was very disappointed there. I was very disappointed with the AI. Story, side quests, yeah, I'm very elated there. Hopefully it does pick up because, like I said, I'm only 14 hours in to the game. If it doesn't pick up there, I don't know what my score turns into at the end,
Right.
because that is the crux of it. You know, Indy is needed to do some stealth stuff, and beating up somebody and leaving the body in the middle of the floor, I'm not supposed to. What is the sense of me being able to pick up the body for then?
Right.
If it's no mechanic for me to stuff them
Or
inside,
stash the body.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was looking for places where to put it, and my stamina is running out, and I got to stop. I got to get my stamina back, and I got to figure it out.
Yeah.
So again, yeah, and then the food. I'm eating food. I'm thinking the food is going to go to my health. No, I need bandages to fix that part.
Right.
But food goes to my stamina. So I got a bunch of food in my pocket, and I'm going to eat my food, but it's for my
But
stamina.
it's two different types.
Yeah.
You got the lemons and all that. That's for the stamina. Then you got your donuts and you got your bread and you got that for the joint. But I know what you're saying, because one time I tried to eat something in a pinch, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's just stamina.
And it's just holding it. It's just holding it, and it's like he's not doing that with it.
And it was beating the snot out of me. So I'm just like, yo, that's where the hand holding isn't there. And okay, you got to really respect it. And as far as the quest stuff and looking through the quest, Sovereign is completely right. I came upon a safe, and I don't know why am I stupid behind, because I picked up something off the table, and he says, yeah, I got to find that safe. And I looked to the left, and the safe was there, and there's two idols inside the room. And I said, I looked at the bottom of the idols, and they got some stuff on it, but this ain't got nothing to do with that. And I'm like, God, it does have something to do with it now that I'm thinking about it, because I didn't open that safe, and I'm thinking about it right now because I found a piece of paper. See, this is the thing.
It's two pieces of paper.
Yes, it's two pieces of paper. Yeah. But this is what I'm talking about. That is what I love. It makes you think about it later, and you pop up in the middle of the night, and you're like, I got it. I got that piece. And you don't want to leave that area until you figure it out.
Yeah.
So they do have that ability to captivate you. You just lose me when it comes to combat and AI. And I think that's a large part of this game. And you just came up short. Now, could it be chalked up to the fact that it's first person? Yes. Ultimately, yes. You could do way more things if you were third person, and you could have handled it from there. But I know the comparisons to your contemporaries, that you didn't want to even tackle that and go down that road, because the game is not a Tomb Raider, and it's not Uncharted. It plays at its own pace. It is its own beast, and it's its own animal when it comes to what it does perfectly. So those games can't be compared to it, because those are different games. This game does what it does greatly, and it is what it is. I guess that's the pitfall that I have to live with when it comes to the first person and the decisions that you made. But I kind of understood that going in, and knew who was making the game, because if you go back and look at previous Wolfenstein games, the AI isn't all that intelligent there either. And the first person, fighting mechanic is really pretty much close to the same if you look at it.
They get away with it more because it's more gunplay than anything else in
Right.
Wolfenstein. Yeah.
So we got Rand and Attic, man. What are you doing?
Yeah, Rand, you go first. I'll go last.
All right, so talk about cinematics really quickly. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but like this is probably the most cinematic game an Xbox first party studios ever put out,
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
right?
For sure.
I mean, like Hellblade is very cinematic, but I mean, like Hellblade was 7 hours long. There's like 4 hours of cutscenes in this game, which is almost the length of Hellblade. And there are times you'll be like looking for something, you'll pick up a book, cutscene, put the
Cutscene.
book
Yeah.
down, walk across, grab another book, cutscene, right? Which I mean, it's always good to see Indiana from that perspective, like in a movie, like
I think
shot,
that's the
like
reason
movie
they were
quality.
okay with the first person. They're like, you gonna see him. Let him.
No, it's like
Oh,
you're
yeah,
going to
you gonna
see
see
him,
him.
and you're going to see him do stuff. So the cinematics I thought were great. There is that issue that me and Cog, you mentioned about like a weird. I don't even know how to describe it. I wouldn't describe it as a stutter because I didn't notice any frame rate dropping during cutscenes. It was like I don't know, like a shimmer or something.
Yeah.
It was like very brief. It never impacted the enjoyment of me watching stuff play out, but it was noticeable. I was like, okay, something's going on there.
So, sorry to interrupt, Rand. But for all of you guys, frame rate on console?
Yeah,
What do
we
again?
I'm
Solid.
feeling 60.
Yeah.
to me.
60?
Yeah,
I mean,
I feel
there's no
60.
choice. There's no quality or performance. It's
Yeah.
It's just what it
choose.
is. Okay.
It's 60 frames, 4K. I'm sure.
Okay.
So
Also,
sure,
before
Digital
you
Foundry put
elaborate-
it through his faces.
Also, before you go, because I would be remiss, for Laws of Game Internet would kill me. The accessibility options in this game are outstanding as far as
Yeah.
the amount of things that you can fix, and as far as control, as far as visualization, as far as outlines, as far as accessibility, dead zones. There are a ton of things
Yeah.
here for the accessible community.
Color
It's gonna be
filter
clear.
modes, yeah.
Color filters. It is a very robust thing, and the
contrast.
graphics play into that if you want that. But I had to mention that really quickly, Rand. I'm sorry.
Real quick question. I don't think we ever went into. Did anyone try this game on the Series S?
I did
No.
not. No, I did not. I
Okay.
did not try
So
Temp Little Man.
No one here, transparent,
Yeah.
did not play this on the Series
But to
S.
Rand's point, that there was no performance mode or anything like that, but you could tell this is 60. But continue, Rand.
Yeah. So the cinematics I thought were, I thought they were really good, and they happen very often, right? Which is great. But then we get into the gameplay, like the pure gameplay of Indiana Jones. I've talked at length about how I feel about it being like the lost indie movie and how the characters are all outstanding and stuff. And this is where I feel like most people will be very divisive on their enjoyment of the game. Like, what do you do throughout the game, right? And you could talk about the stealth, we could talk about the combat. First and foremost, the main pillar of this game, this is an exploration puzzle solving game. First, like through and through, period. That is what this game is. It is about solving puzzles and uncovering mysteries and getting to the bottom of it, to the point where combat is almost entirely optional. Like, you don't have to really engage in the fisticuffs because there are ways the game presents it. Like, I believe Sovereign and King, you mentioned this before. This is the Starbreeze team that built Chronicles of Riddick Butcher Bay. The DNA is here through and through. Arcane, it's interesting you said that, Sav, because my first thought playing this was, wow, this feels like Dishonored, where you have a big map to explore, many different like things, secrets to find, but there are always different ways to tackle an objective. Oh, like for instance, in the Vatican's such a big map, or there are 3 big maps in the game, and they're so big that they actually have fast travel points within the game at cross signs to travel between. But you guys will know, out to the right of the main Vatican Concord, there's like a Nazi captain, and he's walking his crew. They're like 4 in a line walking straight down, right? And if you do the field work, there is a mission where you have to save some kid from an older gentleman, and he's being kept in this camp.
The barracks.
Right? Now, you could go straight in if you want. You could go straight in, beat up some dudes. You could do that. Or you could sneak underneath the floorboards and come up within the place and do it like that. Or you could climb a ladder and zip line through it through the top, right? So, like, all those different areas have a different way of tackling the objective. That player choice I mentioned earlier about how do you want to do this. As it comes to stealth gameplay, it was very odd in the beginning because I am of the Splinter Cell school where like you get behind somebody you're choking them out, dragging
That's
them into the
right.
shadows.
Mhm.
Where to choke out at.
immediately go down, right? I remember the first guy I went up to, I couldn't do that.
Bro, I thought it was not in the game. I was like,
I was
what's
like,
going
whoa,
on?
what's going on? And then
Yeah.
it was like, okay, you need a weapon to be able to take someone down from behind. However, it's not a true stealth takedown because if someone else is close, they will hear the other person getting knocked out, and then you engage in the fisticuffs.
Right.
Okay, I'll come back to that in a minute because then you get into
And
this.
keep in mind, when you knock him out, you're going to break your weapon, so you have
Yes.
no weapon to fight the second person.
Well, there's so many weapons scattered throughout. You can use pots and pans, you can use fly
some
swatters,
of them,
hammers.
some of them do take more than one hit.
Yes,
some of them,
and there is a durability with each one of the weapons. So
Mhm.
you'll
Corner.
see in the bottom right corner there are like pings, a number of
Mhm.
pings,
Mhm.
and the more you use the weapon, the more it breaks, and then you got to use something else.
Mhm.
But when you get into the true fisticuffs, right, of the first person combat, Sob's right. First person combat really hasn't evolved since forever. You know, you got your dodge. You can dodge the punch with A. You can parry with left bumper, but you're throwing those fists with left trigger, right trigger, and a power punch if you hold one of them down, right?
Mhm.
So it becomes a dance,
Right.
where I always waited for someone to attack me, and then I
Yep.
just parried.
Parried.
And the parry,
Yep.
but the punching feels crunchy.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
that sound design alongside of the visual of you just smacking a dude in the face felt great. So when you're taking out a bunch of enemies, when they're coming at you, and you take one guy out, and a guy's coming at you, and he's got a baton, right? You crack that whip with right bumper, and there's two different areas. You can target the upper body, knock that baton out of his hand, and he's like, right? That gives you time to go up to him and knock him out fast. Or you could target their feet, whip them off of their feet. So they're on the ground. They're on the ground, and you're punching them while they're on the ground, dead. Or you can hold right bumper, target them in the upper chest, and Indy will grab them with the whip and then pull them towards you, grab them by the face, right? So you got them, you're holding on to them, and then you can just right trigger that and just punch them as you're holding them and knock them out, right?
Yeah, and then Addict told me I call it, yo, come over here, son. They got the come over here, son, where you got that. I think when you both triggers or something like that, and you could, Addict, is that true? Where you could kind of grab
you can
someone up
grab them
by the
and
shirt,
hit
kind
them
of like,
in the
come here, let me
face.
talk to you, my dude.
Yeah.
Well, you'll grab them with one hand and you'll hit them with the other.
Well, that's what you do when you hold right bumper with the whip. You'll do that
Yeah.
and you'll hold on to them. But there's
Yeah.
the other aspect of it because it doesn't really evolve past that, Sav, from what I've initially laid out, right? But the game is set up in a way where even though you come through these areas with these enemies, there are also disguises you can find within the levels themselves that allow you to be able to walk through these camps and nobody even knows who you are. Right. And there are collectibles and stuff within those things that you always return to so you could find them probably without being tasked with doing the combat. Now, the captains, it's kind of like Hitman because you can put on the disguises, but there's always someone who see through that disguise. So you got to be a little careful.
Soldier look a little sus. Let me talk to you.
Now, here's where the other gaming aspect of the game kind of affects this because everything you do in this game awards you adventure points.
Yes.
Everything, right? The notes you find, you read it and Indy might say something. And I pretty much read all the notes because I was really into the story and I was really into the side missions. So you earn these adventure points. You got a camera and Indy's taking shots, all the different locations, and you get adventure points for doing that. And everything's listed in your journal. And it's really cool. Like when you go through the journal, you can see the pictures that you've taken within the aspects of like, hey, I'm this main mission. Here's all the notes that pertain to it with the pictures and stuff. I think it's really cool. A visual implementation of like what you've done in the game, right? But what do you spend these adventure points on? Throughout the world are interspersed these books.
The books.
And the books you pick up, they award you skills, right? So it's not enough just to find the book. You have to use the adventure points to unlock the skill.
Yes.
Right? So, for example, you'll find books that will increase your health. If you find enough medicine around the world to be able to get them, you'll find books that allow you to clinch heavier enemies because you can't do because you have your basic grunts.
And you got the beefy
Then you
boys
have the big
out
dudes,
here,
the big heavy dudes, right? But you can't really do that.
Play that.
You got the captains and stuff.
Hit the credits too.
So the reason I say this is because I feel like stealth really wasn't working out. because you're trying to be slow and getting through an area, and then you got to find a weapon enough to be able to hit them from behind, but then somebody might hear you. So it's like, okay, I don't know about this. I mean, I guess maybe it makes sense from how Indy would be. He's not the greatest fighter in the world, but there are books, and I told Todd this, and I was telling Colt this because, you guys were talking to me about it. I found all the books in the game, and I've unlocked all the points within all the books.
Mm-hmm.
There is a book you can find in the Vatican that allows you to use your whip when you're behind somebody to instantly take them down. And they're out of the fight. They're dead, right? And then there's another book you can find that allows you to do that to the heavy characters, right? There's a book that you can find that allows you to clinch the heavy characters, right? So there's all these different, I don't know how many books there are, 50 of them.
There's a lot.
All doing with different aspects of the gameplay of the combat and stuff. So when I got that book, Sav, walking up behind somebody, all I got to do is just hold the right bumper behind them. And do you know the length of that whip? Boom, whip down on the ground. Over
Yoked
instantly.
out.
It's so fast and so quick that now it's just a breeze walking through any of these areas because I can just go back. Oh, no, you're down. Oh, you're down too. And with how the AI is set up, where you're right, the AI just does what the AI does. It's not. They don't. You'll find restricted areas in red where you need a Nazi disguise so they don't see you. But if you do rile them up, you can just walk out of the restricted area and they won't follow you. Right? They'll forget about you. So like you could go through an area, loot some of the things within the camp, and then everybody's after you, just run away and they'll forget about you. I've taken out people within 5 feet of each other and they didn't even recognize it, right? So their vision is limited and whatever. So there's the AI. It's not the greatest. And that's why I want to say that even though I enjoy the physicality of the combat, I feel like the combat is the weakest part of the game.
That's what King says feel like.
But I'm not saying like the combat's not fun and engaging when you do actually have to do it. And there are stretches of time where honestly, like I didn't even get into combat for 2 hours. Well, then like, okay, then I get into combat again. I'm like, oh yeah, this is fun. But it's not something I wanted to do because I was in puzzle solving mode. I was in, let me try to find all these things around here. And that's into the other point Attic brought up about side quests and the puzzles. So the game is situated into like 4 different categories. You have the main story, right? And I think, and it's each one of the main story puzzles. Like you're in the Vatican, there's a specific type of puzzle they use because when you go to Giza, it's kind of like, reflecting light is more of a thing here. When you go into the jungle, it's more of directing water flow to get to the right area. You know how like you have those games where you got to like, you got a long pipe, but you got a T pipe and you got water and you got you got the pipes you can put in you direct the water flow. So there's kind of a theme for each one of the puzzles within the area. But then you have field work, which are the side quests. And each one of these side quests are lengthy. Cutscenes. You might have to move to different locations. Those are all worth doing. Even though you don't have to do them, they are all worth doing. There's a couple of those that were absolutely fantastic cutscenes. Attic, I don't know, did you do the one in the jungle that was kind of trippy, let's say? Did you do that cutscene?
I did
or
that.
Yeah. Like complete. I wasn't expecting something like that. It was really cool. Then you have these things called mysteries, which is what King and Sovereign were talking about safes, about things you'll find, you'll pick up, it'll say a mystery note, and you'll read it, and you'll be like, huh, okay, there's a chest somewhere, and this note is telling me how to solve it, and then you see the chest, and it's a lock combination, but now you got to use your brain to unlock it. And then there's discoveries, which are basic, hey, there's collectibles in the world. Go find all the medicine. Go find all the relics. Go find all of this or all of that. But there was, with the puzzles in general, because this is really a puzzle game, solving the puzzles felt really cathartic in a weird way.
Addicting.
That an addictive way, because that's all I want. It's like, I got another thing over here. Let me solve this one. Oh, there's this chest here. And I'd be racking my brain, right? Yep. And usually for each one of those, you have to look in between 2 or 3 different notes to be able to decipher.
Yes, true
And
detective sleuthing.
And the only like nitpick I'll have there is I wish it was easier to look at 2 of them at the same time.
Yeah,
because you'll be like, okay, for instance, there's this one in Giza that has to do with cloud formation. So one of the pictures is all these clouds, and they're all numbered, all different variations of the cloud formations. And then the other one is a list of times and what cloud formations there were. So to figure out the code, you had to find out, like, there was a number on the other sheet. But so I was like, oh, this one. So this is Sirius cloud. So now, okay, now I got to put this document down and look at the other document and say, oh, Sirius is 2. But then I got to go back to the other document and be like, oh, this one's a different cloud. Oh, I got to reference. So like, for those, I wish there was more of a way so you could look at multiple documents at once instead of going back and forth to try to figure out the stuff.
Yeah, that was cumbersome.
Yeah, that was a little clunky. Yeah.
And
Hey, Rand, did you do the cipher? The cipher puzzles where you had to put them in that machine and
the machine and then do the thing.
Yeah. You know what's funny? There's one camp I snuck into, and because it gets to the point in the game where you can't physically do what I do. So I just did it to like the back end because the AI wasn't informing the front end of anything. And I'm just sitting there with like all these guards walking around because I only knocked out one person to get in here, and I'm sitting here sweating. I'm like all these people around me, and I'm solving this puzzle in this line.
But that's because you knew the limitations of the AI. It's later on in the game when you come into those. So at that point, I did the same thing. I knocked out the guy that was close to it, and I knew there was other guys around, but I also knew the AI wasn't going to come this way, and they weren't going to see this guy. So I could sit there comfortably and spend 10 minutes trying to solve this puzzle, not have to worry about the other 20 guys in this camp, because I knew the limitations of the AI. But
so are you saying that you're not like, because you didn't experience them finding somebody that you knocked out and reacting to it?
Sure, no.
Oh, it happens. Okay.
So they do.
But if they don't have 2 people in the same line, they won't ever find.
Each other.
Like the guy over in the tower, he's or by the entranceway is not going to come to the tent.
Right.
But the captain might if you observe their patterns.
Right.
So if I saw like, oh, the captain and the guy's here, the captain leaves, and I take out that guy, if I don't move his body, the captain's going to come back. And then the captain's going to see him, raise an alarm, and then everybody knows, right?
Yeah, the only time they will move stuff up is if they see you in any way, shape, or form, because then they'll investigate.
Now, that brings to the other part of the game that nobody's talked about, and maybe for good reason, is gunplay, right? Because I'll just be straight up honest. Gunplay's awful. I think that's done on purpose. Because I think they don't want you to use it as a crutch. Like ammunition is very few and far between, but using Indy's revolver, I thought maybe, okay, use it a last ditch effort. You headshot them, they're dead. Nuh-uh. Headshots do not kill people.
Really?
It shoots their helmet off.
I slammed the dude right in front of me, and he just kept coming. And
Sab, I have the thing where I upgraded the damage to all my weapons multiple times. There's upgrade your all those books, right? I found everything, and still nobody dies by a single headshot. Even like rifles, they don't. And the problem is if you're trying to get through an area without announcing your presence, you fire a weapon, literally everybody in the camp knows.
Oh yeah, the whole use the shot.
So it's almost not even worth using because one, you'll run out of ammo, and then all the guys will rush you. And that's the thing. So if you're not using a weapon, they won't use weapons majority of the time. They'll come at you in fisticuffs or their the batons. But if you use a gun, everybody else will then use a gun. But you don't have enough ammo and enough health to take them all on coming at you with their shotguns and rifles and stuff. So I think it was intentionally done that way so you don't have you're not relying on like one shot headshot, let me grab this. And even when you do like pick up an enemy who dropped a shotgun, it's got like 4 bullets in it.
Yeah.
Or you pick up a machine gun, it's got 20 bullets in it. And it's like it would be fine if you could kill somebody right away, but even with the shotgun it might take a couple shots and then you don't have anything left. So it's almost worth not fighting with the guns in this game.
Check your Facebooking.
But I know that it sounds like negative, but I didn't enjoy the gunplay. I will say that, like, so I avoided it. the combat fisticuffs I did enjoy, but then eventually I got to the point where my main investment in the game was solving all the puzzles and doing all that stuff, where I didn't want to engage in the combat anymore. And I was like, let me put on my disguise and get through this area and move on. And this is where I feel a lot of people are going to be, where like expectations come in, because this game is not Uncharted. This game is not Tomb Raider. While it does have set pieces like those attic, you know what I mean? It does have a couple of those action-heavy set pieces.
Yeah, I'm
the game is a very slow experience because it's about exploring a given area and uncovering its mysteries. I mean, even using your whip to climb is slow. You're climbing up the thing. It's slow. And I think that might be, some people might have an issue with it about how, it's too slow to climb this up the you know, the thing up the wall. So that, I mean, I don't, did I touch on everything, Attic?
No, I punched it.
You are fine.
You're fine.
Okay.
And last thing I'll just add, and before Attic, I know you're gonna get a chance to talk, is just in reference to when you brought up the one thing where it broke the immersion for me personally was I was really attempting to play extremely stealthily my first time out. And what happened is I'm doing things perfectly. I'm making sure I'm not detected. I'm moving body. Going through all this length to be the perfect stealth killer. And the thing that did frustrate me, where I changed my gameplay style to Addicts, which I'm going to ask him, is that after a cinematic, after a mystery,
you went to the beat 'em up style?
I went to another aspect. Let's say I did all this stealth. I did things perfectly. Free person from the barracks. Did all these missions. And you get to a point in the game where something cinematic now happens, right? And it advances the storyline. When I went back to those areas, they were respawned and sometimes respawned inconsistently. And that broke me because I'm like, man, I did all that work to clear out a barracks or free someone perfectly and do all these things. And then when I came there, sometimes those same enemies were back as if nothing happened, or some areas where were inconsistent where there were bodies. I'm specifically in Giza. I remember an area where I infiltrated a tower to get to a Voss location. And I did it so perfectly. There was so many routes to take. And I did. And when I came back, not only were some enemies respawned, some of the old enemies were still in the body, and some of the new NPCs were just standing over them. And I was just like, man. And I was like, okay, I'm playing differently now. Because this is not, it is a casual.
It's not rewarding. It's not rewarding you. Yeah.
It's the best thing I can say. It's stealth on the most casual level. You know what I'm saying? Kind of thing is how I felt. You know
well, and that's also goes into the idea of disguises, right? Once you find them and you clear out an area, if you clear it out, if you do go back, the enemies will be respawned, but it doesn't really matter because you have a disguise that can basically, you can do whatever you want.
And my motivations changed to that.
Yeah, my motivations changed too when I saw that the first time, where I took out everybody in this area and I continued on. And I'm not sure if it's based on time or distance away or something, but then I went back to the area and they were all back, and I'm like, well, that's BS. I took out all these enemies. They should all be dead. But then I got the disguise and I was like, oh, well, I can just walk through this thing anyways. But I did have that moment of like, man, that sucks.
Yeah.
And you can also revisit any previous location. So if you're in the jungle level, you can revisit Giza. You can revisit Marshall College. You can revisit all the stuff. So nothing's really
get completionists, for the completionists who want to really get back to the some stuff.
I do briefly want to mention this, and the only one that's going to maybe agree with me or not is Addict. So each of the levels you get around by walking, right? You fast travel when you uncover places. I did not like how you get around in the jungle level, Attic. Where you had to drive the boat to get to places.
Yeah, because it was clunky like that. Sometimes when you're like turning around, it looked like it was about to sink.
Yeah, I did not enjoy like the one of the last areas of the game is this huge jungle level, but it's in this area where it's surrounded by these rivers, and so you get in a boat, and that's how you basically progress through the map.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just not fun driving a boat to then get to a dock and then okay, you can fast travel, but you still got to use the boat. I just did not, considering it was completely different from the rest of the way you got around in the first game. where it's like, oh, I gotta get in this boat and drive. I did not enjoy that aspect of, but that was like literally just one level. But I thought I'd bring it up.
No, I feel you. Now we got to get Attic. He's been patient. We got everybody's thoughts. You another one who has finished the game, and however you want to attack it, gameplay, stealth, experience. Like this is your bars now. You've been patient.
All right, so first off, I'm gonna get with the good stuff.
All right, let's go.
It's a very cinematic game in terms of combat, in terms of doing puzzles. The only thing I will say about the cinematics, and I'm sure Rand can tune in on this a little bit, like they'll through all this detail doing these puzzles, making it seem like you're seeing Indiana's hands doing this stuff, but then there'll be certain things where they're like, put this on this and take this out to the truck, and then it just shows up on the truck, like you're not seeing you do it. And I was like, that was a little inconsistent, but I'm not really gonna like complain about that too much. The biggest thing I really enjoyed about this game is I actually the puzzles. The puzzles shined on here. It felt like you was actually trying to go around solving all these unique puzzles, whether it's finding a combination on a safe, doing a tomb raid. There'll be certain things where you have to get these signal boosters or these distress things. There'll be certain things where you have to find a key. You got to figure out where that is. There's a lot of good stuff that has this game. The story was good. Very Indiana style story. Everything comes to that. I feel like the combat, even though you guys see, here's the thing. I came into the combat, and within 5 minutes, I realized I could knock someone out, and I never tried again. The only time that I used stealth mechanics is when I knew I'm biting off more than I can chew. So I didn't use hand-to-hand that often. The only time I used hand-to-hand is when I knew I had no choice but to run. I knew I couldn't take the people on. I was pretty much dead. Now, sometimes you come across like two people, but I'm sure Rain can attest to this. If you're fighting more than like 3 or 4 people, you're probably done. Like now, obviously you can maneuver yourself in positions. Maybe you can get a weapon. But most of the time when you're fighting that many people, this is not like one of those games where they all take their turns. Like they do it. They're for honoring you. They're like, oh, now you guys go. No, these people will jump you. They will get behind you. They'll get in front of you. They'll sometimes when you're running, they will run in like a line and stop you from going any further. So when it comes to something like that, most of the time I'm gonna be real with you. I'll pick up a frying pan. I'm gonna pick up a pole. I'm not fighting with my hands. That's stupid. I'm fighting with anything around me. Turns of the guns. Guns are useful, but the problem is it's not that they're not useful to do damage. You could take out enemies with a couple shots, but the problem is once you shoot that first shot, there's 8 more people showing up.
Yeah.
So you're not having enough ammo to realistically take everyone out. What I did enjoy about this game is you're sitting there shooting. You can press X, you fly that to the other side. Now it's a melee weapon.
That's what I was doing.
And I used it more as a melee weapon. When I saw except for the shotguns, sometimes I would shoot them boomsticks. I ain't gonna lie. Sometimes I would shoot them things. That's why when it comes to the AI, I didn't really have a huge issue with it. Now it is horrible. There's no denying that. If you play this as a stealth game.
Yeah, if you play it as pure stealth.
But if you play this as Indy is going 90-0 with everyone in the camp, and you only eliminate people that like, because I was on the I got something in my hand, I'm gonna knock as many as them out. But if someone sees me, someone sees me. And then it's on sight. Now, there are certain situations that you can be put into this. If someone uses that whistle, you dead. Like
they use that whistleblower for real.
There'll be sometimes there are captains like, and I'm like, no,
I'm like, yo, get him immediately. Facts.
So that is good on that. Now everything else I'm about to say, I want to point out this is a great game. I enjoyed it. It's a good game. What everything else I'm saying is what to me prevented it from going. And right now my personal score is an 8.
Okay.
Is what stopped it from going to a 9. AI should have been drastically improved in this game. They should have thought more into the process of making stealth mechanics in the game that made sense. The way they did the books kind of felt like the bobbleheads from Fallout a little bit, where you find them throughout the world. That's horrible. What they should have done is the books give you give you a point to put on a skill tree.
Yeah, so no skill tree as opposed to just adventure
That's
books.
what they should have done,
because you can miss out on complete whole skills in this game.
Well, that's what I was wondering, because people who follow just the golden path, like if we just wanted to see the story,
bro.
One, I don't know how much adventure points you're going to get, and then two, you're probably not going to find a lot of books.
Agreed.
You find a decent amount, because here's the thing: a lot of the time, regardless if you're doing the golden path, because I really did the golden path. Now, obviously, I went over here sometimes, but don't get it twisted. They're like, we want you here. I'm there. I'm going there. But a lot of the time, you're looking in the tents because there's other things in there, and they don't hide them. They're just sitting there. They're glowing half the time. So I will say those books are pretty open. Then they sell the books,
but there are a lot of books that are really off the beaten path.
Yeah, they are. They are, and some of the best ones. Some of the best books are. You have to do side quests to get in.
Which again, not to interrupt you, it was a weird loop because I'm not used to games having side quests that give you all this powerful stuff that kind of incentivize you to keep doing this and to keep searching and being nosy. But I see what your point on the adventure point.
Attic, did you find the book in the jungle level that allowed you to finally take out enemies from behind without a weapon? Stealthy?
I didn't find that whip thing you said. I didn't find none of that stuff. There was no way of me taking people out that whip. I'm telling you, the only way I was taking people out is with my hands or that crowbar.
Right. And I just wonder if they thought about proper placement of these things, right? Because there's this book in this jungle. You know, I mentioned before how you get behind somebody in stealth. You need a weapon to take them out. But this book allows you to get behind them, hold right trigger, and you'll grab him by the shoulder, turn him around, and punch him in the face and knock him out.
It's little things like that that's like, why are you locking stuff like this behind a book that's a collectible? Now, I don't mind. And then what's funny is like they'll have these things that you find that's like, oh, there's something over here. Maybe you should go look over there. Put more of these books than those. Because sometimes I feel like I'll go in there, I'll find money that I'm not really going to use half the time. What's funny is the key items in the game, they make you pay for them.
Yes, you have to pay for them to get them and then use the adventure points to, I
almost lost my, because I had a lot of money. I was buying a lot of the maps and stuff, right? They make you buy the camera. They make you buy, so the Vatican has the camera. The Giza has the lighter to go through the areas in the dark. Then the jungle, Attic, you remember this, has this rebreather to breathe underwater. Except
they're like, we don't say the amount, but they're like, we want a lot.
They wanted.
And I'm like, yeah, I got that. I'm like, no, I don't.
Yeah, like, dude. So
they got a Lara Croft rebreather, like.
But what I will tell you is, I guess the game will register if you don't have it.
Oh, it absolutely
and it gives you it gives you a solution if you don't have it.
But dude, I was so pissed because I had spent so much money on buying these random maps to put stuff. So I had $100, right?
Yep.
And I went to buy this thing, and it was an exorbitant amount. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? How am I going to get this much money? And then as soon as I left the hut, it was like, field work, steel vases gold. And I'm like, oh, okay. So the game must know if you come in there without enough, they'll give you this mission to go buy. But dude, I was about to flip my lid at that point, Attic. I was about to lose it.
The same way you had that interrupt is that I had that issue with, I started to get a very adventure point heavy. My points were high. I'm like, okay, I'm lit. So now, I would come across books that were higher level, but they'd be like, oh, you can carry more bandages and more bread. And I'm like, all right, I don't necessarily need this, but since I'm swimming in adventure points, right? And then I'd go off the beaten path and it'll be like,
find a really good one. You like,
stamina 3, and you need 700, and I'd already wasted it. And I'm like, oh no, that's what I realized.
That's why I feel like a skill tree is important. Because if a skill tree was there, you could plan what you wanted to do, how you wanted to build Indy. I did feel like personally, the disguises were useless. They had their things, but me personally, most of the areas that you want to go, they're gonna look at you anyway. So, and now obviously, if you do use the disguises, there are more areas that you can just openly walk around. But a lot of the key areas you can openly walk around is Indy. It's just like anywhere else you go where there's Nazi people, like they wouldn't look at you as much. But if you got too close, they would still see it regardless because you're not supposed to be in that area as a citizen anyway. So it comes down to that. I will say what I enjoy about this game, because I still got more bad stuff, but I want to balance a little bit, is every area, and I'm sure Rand can see, every area feels unique.
Yeah.
Every area feels like there's different unique battles that you have to take internally and
Mm-hmm.
externally. There's 3 huge hub world maps essentially that let you do all this stuff. Keep in mind, it doesn't matter how far you're in the game. You can bring up your journal, which I'll put journal stuff in here. Journal's well done.
Yeah.
The journal is well done. You flipping through the pages, it tells you all the info you need. Anything you pick up that's related to a quest, you can go to that quest and it'll let you pick up those specific things that was related to that quest. I enjoyed that. There's a travels tab that lets you travel anywhere that you've been. You can revisit anywhere, so don't feel like you can't go. It doesn't stop your progression. It literally lets you just go back to that area and you can do whatever you want. Now, set pieces. I feel like games like this, games like Uncharted, Tomb Raider, set pieces are extremely important. There are set pieces in this game, and Rand can tune in on this.
Yeah.
But I feel like by the time they pick up, they're over.
Yeah, they're very quick. They're very quick.
I
but they're
would've
very
preferred-
cool though.
No, they're amazing.
They're amazing.
There's a couple that I'm
Yeah.
like, yo, but I'm just like,
amazing.
I wanted more anticipation. I wanted like more like doing it. Then it just like by the time I'm starting to like absorb it, it's over. Like so that's the biggest thing. But it's like what I could say on this is I came into this game with 0 expectations. It's damn near almost 2 hours that we've been talking about this. And if you would have told me before I got this game, I would go on here and say anything positive about this game, I'd have said I doubt it. But I will say that this is one of the funnest games I played this year.
That's what I wanted to get at. I just want to real quick because I'm going to forget this part. I know we're going to move on from it. What you said about the map, I mean about the journal and stuff like that. Can I shout out the map? This is the first game that I've actually. Sometimes I walk around with my map open and it'll show your position of where you are.
Silent Hill, I think, does that. Doesn't it?
I
Where-
absolutely love it because it's a realistic representation. You feel like a treasure hunter. You feel like you're.
I just
literally-
don't like that you can't lift it up unless you go into the actual objectives.
True.
You have to look down.
You have to look down, and that part is a little clunky.
It's limiting. Yeah,
it's
it's
limiting.
very yes.
But it's cool in the sense that I can physically see my place in the world and where I'm going to said next objective in real time while I'm moving in first person, which I thought was kind of a interesting choice. And the last thing I want to say, because I'm far away, we're gonna give it back to you, I do want to say you haven't gotten there yet, Saul. There are some set pieces that are really gorgeous. There is one, I want to call it like a boss encounter that I'm just going to say tombs. And when you're in this tomb, it was one of the best usage of sound. And I think you know what I'm talking about, Rand, in terms of dealing with.
Oh, yeah, I know
And
what you're
I
talking about.
thought it first of all,
And that I wouldn't even consider that a set piece.
Right.
What I consider set pieces like Nathan Drake with on the chain,
Right, that-
going
yeah.
down the hall, like those are set
Blockbuster,
pieces. To
you're
me.
right. This was like a
That's a
cool
boss battle.
boss encounter,
And
so
it
to
was a
speak.
great boss
It
battle.
was fantastic. This was some of the best use of sound and lighting, and I was just like, wow, this is cool. I am fearful for my life right now, and I'm scared, and I'm in this situation, and there's a lot of time, even the general exploration in this game, and you nailed it, Addict. I know we're nitpicking a lot, and it's fair. We have to criticize, but there's something about this game that is just so damn fun as you're exploring and continuing in the sense of exploration that I do want to get across. Because I'm like, man, like despite the issues, we're having so much fun doing what we're doing. It makes us continue because you're like, man, this is so amazing what I'm doing. That's what I want to get off. Sorry.
I think the biggest issue with this game is the AI and the way they handled skills. Because I feel like a lot of the combat, maybe Rand and Solve and Cognito, maybe you guys can agree or disagree. I feel like the issues with the combat would have been resolved with being able to properly build Indiana the way you want him to build, where you could see all of the skills. And there's a lot There's like 50 of them. There might even be more than 50. If you actually look at the last thing when you go into the skills, it shows you them all, and it shows you what's marked and which ones you don't have. They don't let you like individually look, but in the back you see like it's like a college exam thing. It's just that's the biggest thing. And I get it. They were trying to. It's books, Indiana Jones, but sometimes you got to separate game play from what the lore is. And this, you could have did the same thing, but imagine instead of having that thing, it just gives you another, like, you need 5 skill points to go past this point, or you need 3 to go past this point. That's what I feel this game needed the most, was being able to correctly build Indiana Jones the way you want to build him. I don't recommend you playing this as a stealth game. I recommend you play this as you go in there trying to take out as many as you can, but you realizing the AI is so clicky. And sometimes it works to your advantage when it comes to stealth, but that breaks the immersion at the end of the day. And I feel like if they would have just worked on that AI, did something different, maybe not necessarily what we say when it comes to the skills, and maybe work on, even with my criticism towards the set pieces, the reason that I'm annoyed they were so short is because they were so good.
So good. Yeah.
But that's pretty much it, man. Like I can honestly say, it's like, look, is this going to catch everyone's attention? I would say it catch a lot of people's attention, but I can understand if you come in here expecting this to be a Dishonored, a Thief, you're going to be extremely disappointed. But if you come in here wanting to raid some tombs, want to have a decent combat system, not the greatest, not the worst, this is going to be a type of game that you play. And I do recommend, I think this is worth the money that they would ask, even if you don't get it in Game Pass. Like, I do think this is a fun experience. And like I said, I thought I was going to get in and out 10 hours. Nah. I was about 20, 25, 30 is what you're looking at.
Dude, yeah, when I finished it, I was at 28, and then I've gone on to try to continue to do all the mop-up stuff. Like, I had done all the field work and all the mysteries, so now I'm just kind of like, I want to find other artifacts, because there does seem like there is a puzzle towards the end of the game.
And see, Rant, if you generally didn't like that game, you wouldn't care about that extra stuff.
No, I really like the game.
That's what I'm saying. Like, even though the issues that we have, there's a formula in there that I can't put my hands
on it. It's
that makes me like the game, even with some of the clunky
it's like
systems.
I'm not the biggest fan of puzzles, but dude, I was into all the puzzles. There are some really cool.
There was a puzzle,
puzzles.
and I'm not going to say it, but you had to use multiple people, and I was stuck on that for 45 minutes.
Really? I solved that in like 2 minutes.
Yeah, Rand's a beast. Like, I'm talking about some of his puzzles. I
know the one you're talking about, but I solved that right away. But yeah, I could because I talked to a few other people. They'd be like, I don't know what to do with this. What's going on? Like,
that's
what
the
am
only one I got
wrong?
stuck on was that one.
And it's like, okay, but now, yeah, it's a really good, it's a really great game, I think. It does have some flaws which kind of drag it down a bit. Like you mentioned, like stealth isn't the greatest, and I feel like they could have bet. I know Addict's point about skill tree, right? But okay, if we're gonna do the book thing, I feel like putting the book that allows you to take, do unarmored stealth takedowns literally at the end of the game, I feel like that's not the right place for that. It should have been somewhere in the Vatican.
I agree.
Just like that whip takedown. But it's funny because of all the people I've talked to, nobody else has found the whip takedown but me.
I haven't found it.
So
I didn't find it.
I feel like that's an integral part to the experience that I had, because after I found that, I'm just whipping people by the necks down to the ground and just moving on super quickly. Like, I could be standing tall. I don't have to crouch to people. I just, you're down. Next guy, you're down. Right. So maybe in that aspect,
I'm jealous.
I'm kind of jelly. I'm like, that's Assassin's Creed.
I had to find a whole. That's what I'm saying. Guns were useless to you guys because you was using them from the front end. I was using them from the back end.
No, I was doing that from you. No, I didn't shoot. I think when the game introduced the idea of gunplay, I was like, I'm not doing this, because I was like, as soon as I shoot off, like, hey, the whole snitching brigade is here, and I'm just like
I said,
I'm not doing it.
Guns aren't useless, but you don't have enough bullets to really do anything.
Right.
It's a design risk and reward.
Yeah,
it's a risk and a reward.
I want to ask you and Rambo, I know we get close to end. because you guys have completed it, right? And me and Saul were still. I think I'm playing kind of like Saul for the first time, where I am doing every mystery.
Yeah, I
Every,
want to do that first.
bro.
Yeah.
I'm going back. Like I'm
Well,
having
that's the
so
reason we
much
do
fun.
these type of things.
Yeah,
That way, no one is rushed.
exactly.
Because Starfield, none of us beat it, but
Right.
we had a good time talking about it.
What do you mean?
Exactly.
I
At the
beat
time,
Starfield.
no,
What are
we
you
all
talking
beat it,
about?
but at the time of review,
No,
what you talking
when
about?
we
Yeah.
did the review, you wasn't on that.
Oh,
Right.
I was gonna say. I mean,
Yeah,
by the
because
time they're yeah.
no, totally. And my thing, because I was having so much enjoyment, I refused. There was something innate in me. So I was like, I don't want to beeline rush this. I'm having
No.
so much fun.
Where are you in the game, Cog? What
I
what
am now
area?
after past the,
Just
I
say
did,
the area, like 1, 2, or 3.
after the snowy biome stuff. I'm
Okay,
past the
okay.
Oh,
snowy
you're
biome
past
part.
the snow level
I'm
from like
past
the trailer.
from the trailer. I'm
Yeah.
past that part. Right. And
And
now
that's
we're
an
figuring
amazing level. That's
right,
one of
and
the
now
best
we're
levels in
figuring
the
out
game.
what's going on in the mysteries thing. But what I want to ask, this is specifically for you, Rand and Addict. You guys have completed this, right? You have done that main journey. So my question to you is, it's the big one, like without spoiling, was that journey satisfying, Rand? Did it put the bow on it, or did you say, you know what, it was okay? You know, I got what I got out of it, and I still enjoyed the game. Like I have to know that payoff towards the end. Did they
No,
execute?
I think the payoff was no. I think they hit it because the whole game is centered around what is the Great Circle?
Mhm,
What are these pieces for? Right, and that's like the Nazis want them, and then you want them.
mhm,
But what do they do? What are their powers? Because there's clearly some power,
mhm,
like how these Indiana Jones things, like oh, the Ark is actually real,
mhm.
right? Oh, the Holy Grail's real, right? There's always like that. Oh, there are aliens. We don't talk about Crystal Skull like
We
that,
don't
right?
talk about that.
Or
We
we
don't talk
go
about
back in time in the newest Indiana Jones, right?
Mhm,
So yeah, I feel like the main story kind of it nailed what it was going for. It kept me intrigued about what the purpose of the stones were,
mhm.
and the final reveal. I know we can't talk about,
Right.
but I was not expecting. I kind of was sat there. I'm
Mm,
like, oh really? Okay,
mm.
this is where it's leading. All right, all right. I'm sure Attic probably feels the same way though.
It went left real fast.
All right,
Real
so
fast.
Attic, you're the ending guy. You're the guy that I've seen
They hit it.
historic. Oh, see,
They hit
that's
the
what I need
ending.
to know. See,
The
Attic,
ending was good.
it means his opinion means the world to me.
From the ending to how
Yeah.
they did the story to the last encounter, all of it, and I'm sure Rankin, the last encounter was really fun. I'm sure Rankin can attest to that.
Yeah.
They hit the whole ending.
So they paid. Okay, see that he saved me because that was my main thing. I'm like, it would suck if I'm having all this fun and then we don't land this plane narratively.
No,
and
they
you-
landed it. They landed it.
Ooh. See, that's all I need to hear. That's why I'm glad playing at Solve's pace and picking up every damn collectible and going through everything because I'm just getting what I love about it. It's rewarding the hell out of me for my nosiness and my sleuthing and my detectiveness. And this is the first game in a while that really did that, and that's what's allowed me to continue to play and overlook some of the flaws or certain aspects with the combat and the stealth. But that's what. So how did you feel about that, Solve? Now that you heard them say that narrative beat seems to
Well,
be
yeah, that because I'm looking at my experience to now, and like like I said, the sleuthing aspect of it, the puzzle solving aspect of it, they nailed all of that. But the combat and how you interact with the game is something that is also integral to indie. So I'm just like, man, if that doesn't improve in a way, and to speaking to what you guys have been saying, it still doesn't solve the problem of the AI not being great, right? So
No, it doesn't.
being able to tackle them in ways that feel more akin to what I would do in a stealth game is great, right? To know that those options are out there. And I know I'll probably find it because I play that way. I'm not going to get out of the Vatican until I have everything and then I'll
know, I
finish
did the
the
same
stories.
thing.
But yeah, I'm going to wait to
I'm
the
like, I'm
end
not
to
leaving.
finish the story stuff. I'm not leaving.
Facts.
So I'll find that stuff, and that will give me different avenues to approach scenarios. So I'm glad about that because I think that will get me over the hump of being kind of disgusted with the fisticuffs and being kind of disgusted with the melee combat, and now seeing that like. And that's disappointing as well to hear like the gunplay is like it's not great, and to hear that from Machine Games, Wolfenstein, and mind you, Wolfenstein, the new Colossus improved upon the New Order in that it was the guns felt heavier, right? Those games have always felt like the guns were cool, but they never felt impactful. And they improved somewhat on that with the new Colossus. So I was looking for that from Indy. And when I shot that revolver, like it was a nice pop. It was just like, oh man, now I'm really in trouble. And it's just again, it doesn't function well as a gameplay, as an addition to gameplay. But in terms of it feeling and doing what you expect a revolver to do, a one-shot revolver, reload, it did that. So I'm excited to still see like how the shotgun feels, how machine guns feel, just to see it, right, and kind of play around with scenarios. Because at this point, when I play these type of games, I'm like, okay, let me try to break this and see how this dumb AI reacts to these foolish situations. So I'm excited to see what happens there. I'm still disappointed that they couldn't really find a great sort of middle ground to getting me an AI that feels responsive to what I'm doing and that's paying attention to my movements and is very kind of leery of what I'm doing. Maybe in a patch or two, whatever. Maybe they work to address that a little bit to improve upon that. But I am glad to hear that they nailed the overall story. That at the end of the day, the journey was worth taking because, look, there've been plenty of games that I've played that I fall down a rabbit hole because there are aspects of it that I love, and I wind up, just forgiving the other stuff that I don't love as much. And ultimately, at the end of the day, the experience is still has value for me. So I fully expect to get as much out of it as I can from the exploration aspects of it, finagling what I can from the stealth of it, with these other attributes I'm going to unlock. And then, everything else, I'll find a way to have fun with it for sure. Because it feels so like it feels broken in so many ways. They're fun scenarios that come from it. They're stupid, but they're fun scenarios that do come from it. Like when you have 10 guys coming at you and you're hiding behind like a lamppost and they lose you, it's like, okay, this is funny. But I do hope they do work to improve that in some patches, and we have a gameplay experience that feels more cohesive on all fronts. So I'm hopeful for that. But yeah, if I'm gonna put a number on it right now, from what I've experienced, it's pushing towards an 8, just because all the other stuff, all the cinematics, the feel of indie is there, the reverence for indie is there, and they got what the character is about correct. It's just again, the combat stuff we've talked about. But overall, I am happy with the product that they put out, and I'm glad that, yeah, to Addict's point, they showed reverence to where it came from, to the point where, like to Rand's point, it does feel like it just slots right in between, as a movie. And that's awesome. And that's awesome.
And I feel like that's one of the reasons that they didn't make gunplay so accessible in here, because they know in like Indiana Jones, he don't be walking around and like doing gunplay to that degree.
Yeah, exactly. And even like the stealth part, like if they give you the option to play it fully stealthily, that's cool. But that isn't necessarily indie. Indie tries to be stealthy, and things always go left, and it turns into it's goofy. Yeah, exactly.
And that's a part of what I thought, Red. I want you to know how you feel about it. I know we're going long, but it reference to, part of me feels like some of this, even though I'm not excusing bad AI or those type of gameplay mechanics, part of me feels like they
like a
know
priority thing.
Yeah, like this is the design choice to be like, okay, the Nazis are dumb. You know what I'm saying? Or Indy's not the smart. Like he's a little clumsy on certain things. Like part of me is like, I'm wondering if that played a factor. I'm again not excusing anything. Into some of these choices as to how to play. Because at some point, I agree with Addict. The game then kind of just wants me to have fun and just go out there, as opposed to taking it as ultra serious. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if you felt that way, Rand.
Well, it's an interesting thing to think about, because in my head I was like, okay, you think about Indiana Jones and it's like, how are you going to make this game? Do you copy the imitators, right? So do you copy Uncharted and Tomb Raider and do it that way, where it's heavy on set pieces, where you're basically a mass murderer, and at the end you like find a statue or whatever, right? Or do you pull it back, make it more like the movies where, like Soft said, yeah, he'll do some stuff stealthily, but it always goes wrong, right? He always gets found out. There's always something that happens, and I feel like they were like, no, we don't want the comparisons to the other games in that genre.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not really a lot of games that the focus of is purely puzzles. There's a
Yeah.
lot of puzzles in this game, right?
Yeah.
I sort of then feel like the combat is almost a secondary thing.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, we need something to help engage people that are looking at it for action. Because in my mind, when I think about other people and how they might view this game, if you're someone who's an action junkie, you might find it a bit slow.
Mhm.
Right? There's a lot of cutscenes. There's a lot of walking around, especially when you get to the Vatican the first time. And the map's pretty big. Like the first time you're there, you're like, yo, this map's huge. Later on, when you've acquainted yourself with all the ins and outs, it's actually kind of small. Like when you actually think about it after you've been there, like the levels are actually kind of small, but at first glance, you're like, when you get to Giza and you see the pyramids, you're like, yo, this map is massive. But then you realize there's a lot of empty space in between a lot of areas. Like, so it's one of those things where I don't know what else they really could have done.
Mm-hmm.
And if you wanted to build a puzzle game where that was the focus of, I think they nailed that aspect of Indiana Jones about uncovering ancient mysteries,
Yes.
going down in these tombs and
it.
solving these puzzles, which depending on, each person might take some longer than others. Where like the combat, and I'll use that choice, player choice, right? That's what devs love. You can engage in that however you want, Sav.
Mhm.
If you want to engage in that and fisticuffs at every single check, you can. It may not be the most appropriate, but you could do that. Hey, you want to grab your weapon and start shooting? That's there too. If you want to completely avoid all of that, there's disguises you can find. You could just walk through everything. So I feel like they tried to do these things where it was like they didn't want to force everybody to do the melee combat, because you're right in your initial estimation, like it doesn't evolve past that initial like black parry, punch, grab, whip. So, and that was always my concern about like, am I going to get bored with that style of stuff down the road where like I'm 10 hours in and I'm just like, I'm tired of getting into combat. It's weighing down what I truly want to do in this game. But I think the idea of them being like, you can totally sidestep all this stuff if you want to. And I guess that means like, well, is it not good? It's like, I don't necessarily think it's not good. I just think that they had a vision of what they wanted to build this game, right? Todd Howard is apparently a super mega fan of indie.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell like the love of the character and the lore and all that stuff is dripping off the screen.
Absolutely.
From all this stuff. I do wish the stealth was a bit stronger. I do wish some of the books were put out more in the first level where it made stealth more of a viable approach.
Mm-hmm.
I also do wish the gunplay actually mattered a bit more, in the sense that like the first time you take out your gun to shoot somebody and then literally everyone in the area knows where you are and you get jumped, it made me never really wanted to engage in the combat ever again. And then knowing, later on picking up rifles and taking 4 or 5 shots to kill somebody in the head, it's like with the limited ammo, it just didn't really seem like a viable option. It's a really great game that has some flaws that some people will really not enjoy because they may not like puzzles straight up. I mean, not everybody enjoys puzzles. And someone who's like an action junkie might look at this and being like, it's not giving me what I want. So it could be pretty divisive, but for my money, I mean, I spent like 8 hours, 4 days in a row playing this, and not necessarily because I needed to hit embargo, but it was because I wanted to. And now, like, I can't wait for this to be over because we've been going for like 2.5 hours because I want to get back in India and I want to continue to explore and I want to find everything.
Yeah.
Right? It seems like there's a puzzle later on that requires a lot of artifacts to actually open up this door. So I'm like, I really want to do everything the game has to offer, and I only really care about that.
Yeah, I
because
saw that was like, that's a future AJ problem.
It's like I care about this game, and I had a lot of fun playing it. And I hopefully there is a sequel. I would like to see Machine Games do another one of these, right? You know, even though like I am a Wolfenstein fan, this also was extremely enjoyable. It just I sort of think some of the combat things that we've laid out here kind of prevent it from that upper echelon of 10 out of 10 or whatever it would be, right? But for my money, like I really, really, really like the experience it offered, despite some of the shortcomings it does have.
Well said.
But that might not be for. I mean, some people might view that differently. Some people might not look at like they might be in love with the combat, right? So I mean, everybody's got a different opinion. So
yeah, I agree. Totally.
Yeah, I do think when it comes down to it, it's like, look, you know, all we can do is give you guys the info. We don't really tell people to buy stuff. Occasionally, I'll throw it out there. It's up to you. We give you the info, and you decide whether or not you want to download it. If you got Game Pass, because it is on Game Pass, you want to play it, you want to buy it, you want to gift it. It's all up to you guys. But so tell the people where we're at, because we've been doing this way too long. We can't do anything short, man. We literally can't do anything short.
It never happened.
Yeah. I'm just shout out to Bethesda, shout out to Machine Games, and Microsoft for hooking us up and letting us play the game early. It was again. I love indie, so I'm definitely gonna finish out the game. And again, I'm gonna take forever to do it because I'm gonna. I just the last thing I did was look at my journal. I'm like, oh, I have all these things to kind of fill out before I even think about finishing the story stuff in the Vatican. And then that's just going to be my approach to the rest of the game. So I'm excited to do that and excited to kind of break the aspects of the gameplay that I feel have fallen a little short of what I wanted. But again, I think there's enough there that hopefully they can patch some stuff up and kind of clean it up a little bit. And if not, there is again there's some funny moments to glean from it anyway. Because I've already seen a couple and that hilariously kind of bad, but. Like I said, I'm excited for the story stuff. To know what the Great Circle is, because at this point I have nothing. It's just Indy realizing that there's more to the things that have happened thus far that he needs to kind of delve into more. So
hey, what's funny? Smooth is calling me because he probably just beat him.
Yeah.
That comes out. Cog, man.
Yo.
Cog, where can people find you at, man? Keep in mind, we do a podcast.
Man. Iron Lord's podcast every Sunday, the Lord's Day. Again, shout out to Red. Shout out to everybody. I know King, he had to dip out, but we were appreciative of his presence. And then, kind of like
he got to wake up in like 3 hours.
Yeah, he's going to be hurting. So, I appreciate these lengthy reviews because, again, different perspectives. Everyone's play experience is different. Everyone's play style is different. And, again, shout out to Xbox and Bethesda for allowing us this opportunity because we love this format. When you get Rand and you get Addict, the super fast completionists, right? But they give a lot of nuance, right? And then for me, all I will say is, this was a game, and I spoke to you at the top of the year that and no disrespect to Hellblade or any other game, when I saw this game, I was like, that's the game for me at the developer direct. I knew this game was speaking to me, and I was curious to see how they executed with all these different aspects to it. And again, we do admit there are flaws here, but the ultimate thing that I came away from it was I'm having way more fun than I thought I would even have with this style of game. And as a person who was, the controversy was the third person versus the first person perspective. And I get it, people who want a traditional third person. For me, I love that Machine Games stuck to their guns and did this experience because it made me tackle puzzles in the most interactive and cinematic way that I've ever done. And I just love this approach. And I hope they are awarded a sequel. I know that's probably a lot with the licenses and the movie continuity. I don't know how that works, but it is so much fun. And like Rand said it best, like I literally just can't wait get back into this world and then actually, complete it and see that plain land, because everything that I've experienced has been, from a story-wise and cinematic nature and from a graphical fidelity standpoint, for the most part, has been top notch. And I'm willing to go forgo some of these flaws, even though it's right now it's about an 8 for me right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm just curious where, if how much higher or how much lower it goes, but that's where I'm at right now, and until I actually get to that final credit scene, which I am refusing not to rush, because I am going to definitely take my time with my food on this one. So that's where I'm at.
Ran, tell them where to find
Yeah.
you, man. I'm sure everyone knows who you are, but act like people got amnesia. Tell them anyway.
I didn't mention this before, but thanks to Bethesda for sending over a code. I'm sure I'll say that in my video when I basically I could just cut out my parts here and my video's done because I pretty much gonna have to say the same stuff. But yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm sorry this went long because I'm verbose when it comes to this stuff. Probably it could have been an hour shorter if I wasn't here.
We got bars, baby.
You didn't even you didn't even get the questions, Attic. You're skipping them over, but it's too long.
I looked at the questions. We answered all.
We answered the majority, all of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
the only thing I will say that we didn't answer is people are under the illusion that you play with anyone else other than Indy. Did anyone play with anyone else other than Indy?
Well, no, I haven't seen it.
Then there you go.
Unless you count
That's
me
the
in the
only
clerical,
question.
unless you count me in the clerical suit. Or
That's
black
the only
suit.
question that
Okay, cool.
that we didn't answer.
Okay.
Indy's the only character. They're expecting like a
switch up where he plays
like
somebody
a-
else.
like a
Raiden
Raiden.
the arbiter.
The Arbiter's mode.
They was expecting like a Mary Jane quest.
Oh, no, we ain't got none of that over here.
No. Just indie all the time. But yeah, you can find me youtube.com/RenOthor19. Xbox 2 Fridays usually, sometimes on different days, but depending. I'll probably have a video out about this on Thursday, and looking forward to seeing other people what they think about the game.
Very interested where this
Yes.
does Metacritic wise.
Mhm.
I know we don't put a lot of energy behind Metacritic, but I know the industry does, and I'm really curious. Like I expected like a mid-80s, but then a lot of the industry I feel is gonna compare it to Uncharted, unfortunately, and I'm very curious to see where it lands ultimately.
Mhm. No doubt. And that's all we got, right?
Yeah, that's all we got for you guys. Remember this Sunday, 1 p.m. We'll probably have another segment talking about Indiana Jones. We're gonna bring some guests on. Yeah,
Sav will have it done by then.
No, Saab will not be on this week's list.
Anniversary time.
Yeah,
See you guys.
All
right.